All righty. Welcome, everybody, back again for the last live stream of 2020. I'm glad 2020 is now pretty much almost done. We got a couple of more days till New Year's Eve, and good riddance, right? Yeah, hopefully 2020 will be 2021. What am I saying? Will be a much better year for everything, for our health, our economy, and our printing. Yes. So we have 16 people. I don't expect too many people to be coming on tonight. I mean, people have much better things to do than to hang out with me. I just spoke just a minutes ago with Mike Lee, and he says, "You're doing a show today?" And I thought, yeah, I'll do a show as long as people want to hang out and come on. I don't care if it's just one. I will continue doing this. Actually, as far as analytics go and so-called viewership goes, every Sunday is the highlight of the week for the views that we get from you guys who love to come in and hang in with us. This is kind of a sorority, fraternity, camaraderie type of situation. We all should be able to someday get together in one room. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? Yes. So I think today we're going to go ahead and kind of discuss what 2020 brought us, took away from us, and so forth. It's not going to be political. It's not going to be about COVID. It's going to be about printing. And also, I'm going to just give you, because I've had several requests. I'm not saying that it's been a bundle of requests, but several requests. People want to know, how did I get to do this? How did it all begin? And for that, I have to go back and, my young years as a preteen, no less, when I started becoming interested in photography. But anyway, right now we have about 14, and that's pretty awesome. And everybody, please say hello, jump in the chat, type in who you are, where you're watching from, your printer of interest. If you already have a printer, tell us what it is. If you want to share what kind of inks you're using, what kind of work you're doing with your printer, that would be awesome as well. I got a ton of stuff around me that I want to cover. We're going to do a little bit of show and tell as well behind me. And I got a couple of things that I want to show you guys that it may be a pipe dream, but I hope actually it's not. I hope it's actually something that'll work, and that pertains to the Epson SureColor P900 and Epson SureColor P700 resetters. Well, you know the deal, and you know the drill. This has happened before. Actually, not to this extent. The P800 never did get a resetter made. The P900 apparently has. We're going to go ahead and test it. And the way I'm going to test it is not by me buying one, because I just don't have what is it, 1,200 almost dollars to buy that printer just to test, and then I'm stuck with a printer that may not be able to run on nothing but OEM. I'm going to rely on you guys. Do you guys who do have them or are about to have one in the USA? You're the guys that I'm going to target, and I'm going to ask you to send me one of your cartridges, or also send me one of your maintenance cartridges, because I have a resetter for the maintenance cartridge. It says right there. There you go. And for both printers use the same cartridges and the same resetter for the, not resetter, the same maintenance cart. This is for the cartridges, okay? Now, what good would that be, right? What good would that be unless you can modify the cartridges for refilling? And we know very well they're probably going to contain an internal ink bladder, just like these older ones. And unless you can remove that chip, let's say, for instance, it is indeed resettable. Well, if that's the case, they will quickly come up with refillable cartridges that do not utilize an ink bag. It's just like these, and you will have to then somehow replace that chip, unless they come up with an auto reset chip. Who knows? We are in a situation now where everything is in the unknown realm, so we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what China is doing. We don't know what those researchers over there are trying to come up with. I am sure that they probably got a hold of some Chinese versions of the P900, in other words, the ones that are being sold in the Orient and that side of the world. And that's what they use to verify whether those chips can be reset or not. Now, here's the deal. So if the chip is resettable, and I'm sure that they could have done that with the P900, it all boils down on the printer itself, the printer's motherboard and the firmware, okay, whether it will accept those resetted chips, which have that same ID color number. This is all about that. I've said that a million times, the same ID color number. And then if the printer sees it at a higher level, in other words, ink level, that then it remembers it being, that he knows you tampered with it, and it rejects it on the spot. That's what US-based P800s will do. So they never really bothered on making a resetter for it, because they knew the vast majority of these printers were going to be here in the North American market. Apparently, European markets were able to still use the refillable cartridges, which have the same chip over and over and over. They just reset themselves to full, and the printer just doesn't care. That is the same ID code, and it's now full. It says, so what? That's fine with me. I'll accept it. Not so with our printers here in the US. So that'll be a lot of fun. So I am going to put out the word on my Facebook and on a future video coming out soon, that I will need you guys to send me either your empties or near empty cartridges. Just one will do, and I will perform the resetting process and then send it back to you. And I will examine it as well to see if my original modification method is applicable to those cartridges. Otherwise, so what? So what? You can reset it. It wouldn't make a difference, because you would not be able to refill it, let's just say. We are drinking handcrafted vanilla cream soda. It is absolutely delicious. I get it from World Market, which is a shop here in the U.S. that sells a lot of different things from all over the world. Pretty much the whole spectrum of items, furniture and foods and all kinds of things. And so that's where I get my delicious drinks from. So we're up to 27. I'm quite amazed at that count at this point. Like I said, he had the Christmas Eve and Christmas Day video count just plummeted, and today has come up again. So again, I understand that. That's perfectly all right and natural to happen. So I am thinking about what to do this coming year, basically because of if this pans out, then it'll be something that I might be able to address and actually consider getting into. I would not buy a 700. I would buy the 900. Why bother when the 900 has the roll adapter, which is what any 17-inch printer dreamer out there that wants to get one should consider. If they don't have a roll adapter, then you're limited to the length of prints that you can create. When that comes around, that idea, that itch to create a panorama, you can either do it or not do it. Okay, so it'll depend on the printer model. Like I said on my very previous video that I did, I think it came out day before yesterday. We're going to be talking about how to buy a used printer. I'm going to have two people here on possibly next week or the week following. I got to get together with Mike Lee and see whether he can get this person who does this for a living. He buys old printers and used printers, and he's able to check them. And if they don't pass a certain category, I guess, or level, he rejects them. And those that make it, he can get them back to full health and performance. So again, we're at that point where it's going to be very difficult to get printers that would allow us to use anything but original products and consumables. Another thing he discussed with me is to everybody out there here in the U.S., not Europe, that has placed orders. Let me just give you an example. This order, okay, I just got it. I think it's been about a week. It was sent on the 1st of December. Okay. It clearly was lost as far as he was concerned. So he's packed another one up and sent it to me. These are the inks for the 15,000 and the bottles and the caps and the tips and the little scabbards that go on the tips. Because remember, we're going to be squeezing the ink out into the exit sponge of those cartridges, and then the bag will inflate with ink. That is the plan. Well, he thought it was lost. All it said on the tracking was that it was in Niagara Falls. So he sent me another one. That was on the 11th. What is today? Today is the 27th. It's still in transit. So what's happening here with COVID and all of that people are not able to go out and shop. So everything has been done online. These shipping companies are up to here in boxes. And what happens is that they can't even ship what's in the warehouse, taking up space. You still need space to walk on, right? But those floors are full of boxes. And so a new load comes in every single day, loads. And so they ship those out and leave the ones that are already there for a later date. So if you're planning on buying anything from Precision Colors, stop. Okay, stop until the year is done and things go back to some sort of normalcy. Okay, that way when you get something that's priority mail, which is normally 2 days in the USA, it won't take 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, like it's happening lately. We live in Maryland. My wife and I, we get these meals, okay, sent to us. They're not prepared. We still have to go and prepare them. It's called Blue Apron, very good company. And we don't eat a lot of saffron. So we've been getting these little packets of saffron, And we know that my sister-in-law in Milwaukee makes the most delicious saffron buns that you've ever tasted. So we packed the little envelopes of saffron in the mail, put them in an envelope, send them, and it was about 2.5 weeks ago, and she has yet to receive it. Okay, so that's how serious and how bad the situation is right now. I was surprised. I got a check from a company the other day that actually took about a week to get here only. So I was kind of afraid that it was just going to get lost completely. So anyway, let's say hello to everyone who's here currently. We are up to 35. That's quite amazing. I'm so glad that you guys consider this block of time important enough to come hang out. So Calligraphy Johnson, you must be new. I don't think I've ever had you here. From Chicago. All right. And I guess it's cold out there. It's been about, let's see, today it was actually kind of warm, about almost 40. This afternoon we went for a nice long drive. Charles Verbruggen, of course, here from Antwerp, Belgium, 9500 Mark II. Glad to have you here, Charles. Harold Goldberg, of course, from cold but sunny Richmond, Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, Pro 100 owner. This is me again, wishing everybody Happy New Year. Henry Stoffel, of course, is always here. And he looks forward to 2021. Yeah, we all do. Hopefully everything will come back to normal. There's some panicking stories online that say January is going to be worse than ever. Oh my gosh. You know, I don't know when we're going to get our vaccines. I go to Walter Reed Military Medical Center, so we get our vaccine there pretty soon. As soon as it becomes available, we'll go there and get it. And it is imperative, folks, that you get 2 of them. I basically spent 26 years in infectious disease studying in profession. And so I know how vaccines work. And so it is, in this case, it's very important that you do get the second one. We will not get into the details as to why. Michael Cavaliere, Connecticut, Epson 800. Robert Smeltzer, love and prayers to all. Happy and safe New Year. Thank you, Robert. Emmanuel from France is here, Normandy. Beautiful area there. P600 and Cones Inc. All right. Alan McKean. Wow, how do you pronounce that? Ajijic? I'm doing it in Spanish. Ajijic, Mexico. Wow. Nice. I don't think I've ever had one here, Alan. Had you here? Michael is an Epson P800 man. Nathaniel Booth is here. I just had a nice commentary with him the other day. We're going to go ahead and, again, we're going to hook up one way or another to get that P800 chipless. Alan McKean says Pro 200. All righty. Nathaniel Booth, P800, Baltimore, Maryland. Yes, sir. Bernhard Moore, safe New Year from all in Southern Connecticut. Pro 100 and refillable inks. Awesome. Michael Cavaliere has a question. Okay, Jose, does the 3880 have chip reset? Have chip set when given for free Epson? What? Wait a minute, Michael. I'm trying to make sense of this. Okay, you want to know if they can be reset. Well, this resetter will do the job, but okay, a couple of the colors will not reset for whatever the reason. The firmware on 3880s was changed, and so I think you can do everything but light, vivid magenta, and one of the light grays. So you can actually reset those original cartridges before they reach 15% empty. Otherwise, the reset will not take. But you know what? You don't need to do that. Just get some refillable cartridges. These will work fabulously. Okay, these are the refillables for that family of printers. You just need your original chips. They go underneath this chip right here. This is your controller chip. You remove, if this is, for instance, magenta, You remove the magenta chip, put it underneath, and then this goes on top. This chip has some contact pins that will contact your original matching OEM chip, and then it will work, okay? And the resetting takes place when they reach empty. You remove it, fill it, put it back in, and it resets to full. It has to reach empty first. But here's a catch. You never let them reach empty as far as physically, physical levels of ink go. You have to keep it completely topped off. Say no more than half. You take it out and you refill it. Don't worry about purge cycles. They do not occur on these families of printers, only on the kind that have print heads where the cartridge is right on. I'm trying to find mine. Do I have it here? No, I do not. Where did I put it at? You know what I'm talking about. Something like a Canon, something like an Epson printer that has cartridges that ride on the printhead. Those, for example, this one here, if I remove a cartridge and pop it back in, a purge cycle will be initiated. The reason is because that port on the printhead is exposed to air, whereas these are not. Okay, when you remove one of these, there's an ink line right behind it, and the ink never goes and flows in any direction. It stays put, so no air is really invading that ink system. So yes, you can reset the cartridges except for light magenta and light gray, I believe, light black. But you can certainly reset your maintenance cartridges. Okay, I did that last week. It took a little bit of an effort because you have to manually align the pins. There is no resetter that has like a frame that will fit this perfectly for self-aligning purposes. So what you got to do is you got to reset that. And then the way you make it work after you repack the innards, the insides, with some absorbent material that would absorb water-based products. In other words, not oil-based products, but they have to be hydrophilic, not hydrophobic. So you pack it, you pop the lid back on. This comes off, by the way. I don't want to touch it. It's nasty. This comes off. You remove the innards, put it in a bag and toss it, and then pack it with some absorbent material, anything that would absorb any water-based liquid. And then pop it back in, reset it. When you put it back in your printer, it will be recognized as still being empty. Okay, it will reject it. So what you got to do, because in this case, like I said last week, the printer only has room for one ID code. The ID code of what? The ID code of this chip. That individual chip has an individual ID code that no other chip shares. So you pop this in, it says, oh, that's the same one you had, silly boy, and you're trying to fool me. I'm going to reject it. I know it's reset, but I'm going to still display it as empty. As full, and reject it. So you take another one, and it doesn't really matter what condition it is in. I have several brand new ones that I just keep for spares, and I have others. For example, like one from another 3800 or 3880. Just swap them. Once you insert that other cartridge, it will then erase that ID code. It will record that new ID code from that other unknown cartridge. It's never seen it before. Okay, so it records that code and says, oh, it's halfway full. Okay, now you remove that one and you pop the one that you just repacked and reset. It sees it as a new ID code because it only has room for one code number. Okay, so it erases the previous one, the one you used to trick it with, and then accepts this one and sees it as being, in this case, empty, not full, empty, ready to be used. So it's a good trick that works. I don't know what the 700 and the 900 is going to do, how they're going to react. Okay, I don't know whether the resetter can be used on just one cartridge and that's it. The P800 takes this very same cartridge. The 3880 takes that very same cartridge as well. So there's a 3800. So the P800, at least that's the only thing that we can, at this point, reset, okay? With the chipless or ink chip firmware, the P800 can be turned into a chipless printer. Absolutely. And then you can use the current available so-called refillable cartridges. They never drop in ink levels. Okay. They physically do. Of course, you have to keep them, topped off. And the reason being, you don't want the priming to disappear. And the priming is right here. You see the circle? Let me point at it. Right here where my finger is pointing. See that? Right there, right there. That little circular area, that's the priming chamber. You prime it through this port right here. There's a little plug right there. You remove the plug, insert a syringe, and you pull back. And you will get air at first, and then you'll get liquid. You'll get ink. And that means that that chamber now has ink in it. And it creates kind of a siphon effect that you have to maintain throughout the whole printing life of that cartridge, okay? Because these chips are calibrated to expect 80 ml of ink. And these cartridges, because of all of these internal baffles, that takes up room. And so you can really, officially only put like 70 milliliters of ink in here. So you're actually running on a short load instead of what the chip expects to see. So don't rely on the chip to print until it says it's empty, because by that time, your cartridge will have been empty long before that. And then you got air in your ink lines. Not good. Not a good situation for a P800 or a 900 for that matter, or any of the older 3880, 3800. That's not good. Cleaning cycles don't really do a good job pushing air out that has been allowed to infiltrate those lines. All right, let's see. George from Cyprus. Canon Pro 10S and a Pro 1000. I hope everybody with a Pro 1000 is having a good time with it. Pro 10 is also pretty much gone at this point with the new advent of the Pro 300 that came out just recently. Pro 10, if you find them, they're going to be at outrageous prices. Bob Ball, greetings from Evergreen, Colorado. Canon Pro 10, enjoy your videos and information. He's our first timer. Welcome. Blue Frog on a log. Nice. I love that. Happiest holidays, Mr. Rodriguez and printing friends from Annapolis, Maryland. Oh, my goodness. Right up the road from me. Yes. That's our state capital, by the way, folks. Beautiful place. Randall Dodds. I tell you what, man, we got to get together. I know there's a guy in Western Maryland. Now we got Annapolis. Now we got one in Avenue, Maryland, and now Baltimore, Maryland. And I know there's one in Bethesda somewhere that we have to hook up and get together once this mess is all over. Okay, we'll get together and have a drink. Awesome. Randall Dodds, Tarpon Springs, Florida. I wonder what that is in relation to Orlando, where my parents used to live. David MP from Toronto. Has been a few months since I've been able to make it live. Well, welcome back. I'm glad you were able to find the time and opportunity to join us. I hope this is a lot of fun for you all tonight. I'm going to give you my story once I get done saying howdy to everybody. And again, you'll get to know me better than anyone. Okay, I don't do this often. Ed Tobin from Portugal, printing. Notice I said Portugal. Yes, printing on a Canon Pro 1000. Awesome. You people that are in other countries, and I mean, not the U.S., you doing okay with the Pro 1000? I mean, how are you getting by with either refilling or buying cartridges? Are you able to find them readily? Sometimes even here, it's just difficult to find cartridges, especially when you all of a sudden realize, oh my gosh, I need a new black, and you cannot find them anywhere locally. You got to order them, and Amazon takes a week and a half to 2 weeks now. Nikos is here already from the TM 200 and 8350. I've been talking to who about what you proposed. We got to get together. We got to get together. We're going to do that probably once this is all over this year and the new year begins. We're going to get together and do a triple live conference call. Ahik SI. What is that? Okay. Anyway, Alan McKean, how are you? Glad to have you. Rick Johnson. Hello, Jose. Thanks for helping me serve your viewers. Oh, yes. No problem. Proud owner of 2 Pro 100s. Yeah, we're going to start, exploring different things as well. And I didn't get a chance today because Mike called. Gosh, it was like 15 minutes before the show began, and I was eating my Chinese food and trying to get ready to get all set up here. And I needed to discuss what we were discussing last time, Rick, about the possibility of just using the 4100s if we disable, ink levels on the 200. Okay. Once we disable ink level on the 200, can we refill using the 4100s? I don't see why that's not possible to do. I don't see why. It should work. Just a counter tenor from Washington, D.C. Oh, man, I'm not a Washingtonian. Awesome. D.C., my name is Evan or Even. I am considering purchasing an HP DesignJet Z90 something 100 or a Canon Pro 2000. What is your recommendation? The Z9 9000 or 9200 is kind of getting a little old. It's been around for a while. Canon Pro 2000, I think, is probably a better choice for you. But then again, that's just me speaking with very limited knowledge on these two printers. But I do own the Pro 1000, which is very similar. In fact, the same ink set, same print head, same print engine, everything. It's just physically it's a different printer. It's a floor unit. And so you might want to also look at the 2100. Okay, that's the new replacement for the 2000. Depends on the price and whether you can negotiate a good price on it. It has a few more advantages that are not, earth shaking, but still for a first time printer user, I think worth it. The ability, of course, this costs you money. Everything does. The ability to buy or able to, you need a roll adapter for the second roll adapter for the 2000 to be able to have two rolls mounted. So I know people that will basically concentrate on two types of paper. And with these Pro 2100 and 4100, and I think the 6100 also has that ability, you can load two rolls, keep them also loaded, and it's just a press of a button. You unload one and load the next one. Self-alignment, everything is done for you. The paper choice is automatically set for because the paper will have a barcode that the printer will read. Of course, internal calibration as well. Now, I don't know whether the Z9000 or 9200 series has internal spectrophotometer. I think one of those printers did. And so that's an advantage because you can create ICC profiles inside the printer, and they are saved to an internal hard drive that lives inside the printer as well. It's kind of foolproof, okay? Again, but I'm not too sure that the DesignJet can do that. Michael DeLuca, we just got done talking a little while ago, a couple days ago, and we had a nice chat. Welcome back, my friend. Hope everything is awesome with you. Glad to have you. Charles Verbruggen says, Jose, what printer would be the best buy for printing 4x6 photos on glossy paper? The Epson XP 15000 or the Canon 8320? Well, if you're never going to go beyond, 4x6 or 8x10 or letter size, then the 8320 is a good one. You can still refill it, no problem. But if you get the itch for a 13x19, the 15,000. That's what you need to get. The advantage, of course, is price. This is $350, and the 8320 here sells for like $150, something like that. Harold Goldberg says, I would come up from Richmond. Of course you would. Of course, you couldn't possibly not. Okay. We would get together with Rusty Nelson. He's in Philly, the Philly area, and all my local bros here get together. Man, I can't wait for this to be over. I want to have a little convention. Everybody will meet at a restaurant and have a great time. We'll be there for hours and hours. Randall Dodd says, Tampa Bay, Pinellas. Oh, okay. Pinellas County. I love that area of Florida, man. I love it. One of my best drone flying buddies, Daniel Sampson, lives down in that region of the world, and it's wonderful. My sister had a little condo in St. Pete, which once she broke up with her boyfriend just before she got married, she sold it. The dream little apartment, I tell you. I would give my eye tooth to live there and just walk across the street, and there I am in the water. Oh, Lee Roberts. Hi, Jose. I hope you and the family had a fabulous Christmas. Epson XP 15,000. Okay, so I got a couple of you already in house, and I want to finish up real quick. I got 3 more, and I want to address you 1,500 users. Of course, my friend, anytime. Ed Tobin says, I was surprised to learn that some of the Hahnemuhle papers have OBAs, but they are still conform to the ISO 9706 for museum quality and aging. What's your thought on papers with OBAs? It's really not as bad as people make it out to be. All of these papers that I'm going to show you pretty much have it, okay, except for a very, very small handful. They fluoresce, okay. I forget what the actual agent is. One of you may be able to tell me. But basically what it does, it allows a dull paper base to reflect light, and it's really reflecting UV. It's like a white t-shirt under UV light. You know how that just glows and your skin looks dark? Yeah, that's what it does to the paper. Any light has a certain amount of UV, some very little, some a lot. So it depends. It allows that print to just look brighter. Okay, it's just a temporary fix, basically, because at some point it just kind of, they call it burning out. I don't know whether that's the correct term to use or not. It just sort of oxidizes away, and it sort of does it from the edges to the inside of the paper. And that's not good, because you start getting a change of color and you don't longer have that reflectivity that you had. And again, it's all fake. It's all due to UV, excitation of that OBA, okay, that optical brightening agent. Does it affect the longevity of the inks? I think it affects the ultimate changing of the look of the printed image, because it will lose that brightness. Okay, that's what it mainly does. If you print on a 0 OBA paper, you will have a duller result than you do on ProLuster or any paper from Epson with OBAs, or Red River with OBAs. You will not have that same level of pop. And eventually those papers lose that, and they will look like the other one, like the ones without OBA. However long that takes, it depends on conditions that you have. Robert Minnick says, Jose is still waiting on Mike to get inks out for the. They have them. Okay. They have them on. It's just that I would not suggest you buying them at this point. Wait until after the year comes in. Let me show you. They have them. They're ready to be ordered. It's just that, he's had some really bad luck with the shipping companies. Let me pop this over here, and I will remove that. Pop this in. Boom, like that. We're going to mute your comment. Here it is. Refill inks, bulk inks, instructions. Refill inks right there. You buy the kit right there. But again, like I said, you're taking a chance that your order may not arrive for several weeks. Okay. Or get stuck in some warehouse somewhere. And that's what I have been experiencing with just about everybody at this point. So yeah, they're ready to roll. It's just that the USPS is just backlogged right now. All righty. Let's see. All right. I'm thinking of installing a sys unit on my Workforce 7210 as an experiment and keeping my 15,000 OEM for now. All right. I'm not sure how what the internal design of the Workforce 7210 is. Does it have cartridges that write on the printhead? I would assume so. It's just a matter of getting those that ribbon of tubes to not hit anything internally. You got to get it so that it doesn't affect anything as on the far left and also on the far right. And so that way you may actually have to keep that top slightly open. Some of the printers, this one as well, you cannot really close that lid completely. And so right now I'm just going to refill my original cartridges. I don't think it's going to be a huge advantage to use a sys. I mean, it would be if I can have a sys in there internally and it fitted just as well as the ink delivery system on a Pro 1000 or the P800, where it's all segmented type ribbon cable and does not hit anything internally. That would be ideal, but that would cost several $100s. I don't think people would be willing to pay that kind of money for a sys unit. But and again, it has to be able, the cartridges have to be able to seal 100% of the time and not lose that seal, which I guess they are basically bound to do. Okay, it's just a matter of time. So yeah. All right, Ramon Lepage or Lepage, Ramon Lepage, from Panama, new to the Pro 1000 after Epson 7890, started giving problems. Canon has presence and service in Panama. Thanks for all the info. Deciding on the Pro 1000 made it possible to keep print. All right. That's great. I'm glad to hear that, these other countries have representation from these companies, Canon and Epson. I don't know about Epson, but, so far we can say that Canon does. Or clients. How accurate is the management program for cost estimate of original inks? Imagine print cost estimate does not include clean cycle use. Okay, so here's the catch. I don't have it installed right now because I had to completely do everything on my computer. So recently, so I haven't had a chance to do that. But it's pretty accurate to the point where I think it measures 0.000 milliliter of ink. Okay. You enter your costs. So if you're using original cartridges and they contain 80 milliliters of ink, you enter. Here in the US, it would be $59.99 for a cartridge. So that's $60 per cartridge. And I think Chrome Optimizer is a little bit less. So you enter those costs for each color, and then you have to enter the cost per sheet of paper of a given size. So all of your different sizes are entered, and that's it. From now on, once you register that printer to the management, what is it called? Accounting software. It will then keep track of all your jobs for you. Let me see. Do I have that installed? I don't even know. No, no, I don't have it installed. I got to go ahead and reinstall that. So anyway, yeah, that's it. So wasting generation. No, it won't show that. But there's a trick. You can, you can actually see how much ink was used on prints. Okay, to a certain, within a month or so let's just say. There's a way, and I forget how to reach that. There's a way where you can get a total readout of ink used, and then you just basically subtract the ink used on prints from the total amount of ink used, and that gives you your waste ink. Now, that's a lot of work. Why do that? Simply put, you can take your cartridge, your waste ink cartridge from the rear and weigh it. An empty one weighs 290 grams, give or take. Depends on, I'm using, the scale that I use just afternoon is really not that precise. It's for mailing small packages. So 290 empty. And so you just put the partially filled cartridge on there and subtract 290 from it. And you'll know how much you have actually used. And again, that will not cause any problems at all, doing that every month or so or whatever. Mohammed El Arbi, hope you had a wonderful Christmas. Jose, how do I know if my image colors are out of gamut for printing in my IPF 1000? How can I find if the IPF 1000 color space chart to identify out of gamut colors? Well, it's very difficult. Okay, it's very difficult. Tools like Photoshop give you an approximation of what colors are out of gamut. Let me see if I can set this up without fouling everything up. I'm going to attempt to do that. So again, out of gamut is an approximation. You really don't know exactly, and there's no real chart. I'm going to load the standard image, and then I'm going to show you how to look at it under out of gamut conditions. Okay, so Photoshop, let's load that up. And I'm going to have to pop it over there as best I can. I got to adjust the resolution of that monitor. It's really all messed up right now, so bear with me. All right, so let's go ahead and load standard image. Okay, so let's go over to share screen. So here's my standard image, and again, look at that. You barely see everything. Let me close that. Let me just put it right about there. View up here, see that? View and gamut warning, or Shift Control Y on a PC. Everything that turned gray is out of gamut. Okay, everything that turned gray is out of gamut. Isn't that amazing? Here we are. So all of these colors here, out of gamut. I keep telling you guys, those are out of gamut colors. Again, let's do that again one more time. The only thing that's not out of gamut basically are these areas right here. Again, a lot of these colors, again, everything that turned gray is out of gamut. Okay, so that is indicative of the printer using a rendering intent, which is either relative colorimetric or what is the other one? Oh, God. Perceptual, will bring those colors, will actually shift colors as needed so that the printer can reproduce them. Well, this doesn't necessarily tell you what the printer itself can reproduce unless you view this under an ICC profile, if you're soft proofing this under an ICC profile. So that's another subject altogether. So how do you deal with this? Well, you basically tell the printer, let me get out of this. Where's view? Right there. All right. When you go to print, you tell the printer that you want to use one of two rendering intents. And if it's going to be relative, okay, relative, it will take whatever colors were inside the color spaces that you're using, gamut, and leave them alone. And my favorite analogy is this. Think of it as a circular theater. If you take like a long vinyl, vinyl record, music record, and the little hole in the middle, that's the stage. And everything around it are rows of seats. And every row of seats, you have red on top, green, blue, and then, magenta, yellow, cyan. And of course, different shades. And there'll be millions of seats in this theater. Each seat has a value. So an image containing a certain number of values gets assigned a seat. So once all those seats are filled, anything that does not have a seat number means it's out of gamut. It should exist outside of that theater. Well, perceptual takes everything and shifts it inside and tells people, hey, get up and move up to another seat. Well, no, if I do that, I will shift my color. All right. Well, that's what it does. It just shifts everything so that it fits. So your color rendition is going to be not as accurate. Okay. Not as accurate. It'll be pleasing. Don't get me wrong, especially if you're doing anything that is not color critical. And by that, I mean skin is color critical. I don't want to be shifted and then turn orange. Okay. I don't want to be shifted and then turn greenish or any other color. Important colors like logos. If you're doing commercial work, you don't want that color to be shifted. The company that hired you will not be very happy with your results. So what intent do you have to use? Relative colorimetric. So relative will allow any areas that are already taken, any seats that are already taken, they're locked. They are not going to shift. So portraiture, relative colorimetric, okay? All the time. Anything that has an important color that must remain accurate. Again, relative colorimetric. If you do weddings and the girls' dresses, those are very critically important. Relative colorimetric. You don't want to shift those unnecessarily just to make room for some maybe not so important colors that happen to be out of gamut. Okay. It would be, so you may have a theater that's standing room only. Okay. And what'll happen with the other one, perceptual, is that some people may have to sit on your lap. Okay. If you understand what I'm saying. So everything will be forced in. Okay. Everybody move to the center of the theater, fill every space. That's what happens. So it's not a very technically accurate color representation. Okay. Your results will look fabulous. Don't get me wrong, but they won't be accurate. They'll be shifted. There's also saturation, rendering intent, and that's used a lot for advertisement type or graphic type design and printing that are solid colors. Let's see. Lev Ani from Georgia. With great respect, happy printing to all of you and Merry Christmas. Thank you so much, Lev. Appreciate that. My Lex G. What ink cards do you recommend for PC that work for the artisan printer? My first time visiting. So which artisan printer? There's lots of them. Do you mean the like the predecessor of the 15,000? Precision Colors, man. If you're here in the US, I know I sound like a broken record, but trust me on that. George says, do you aspirate ink from the 700 ml carts for refilling Canon Pro 10 cartridges? When I eventually have to, yeah, I will. I'm unfortunate enough that I have a bunch of like PGI's 29 cartridges, which are the Pro one, probably like 100 of them, and I still have ink in them. So I will be pulling the ink out of those and using them. The Pro 1 uses exactly the same inks as the Pro 10. The Pro 1000, however, doesn't really use a perfectly matched set of colors. Some of them are and some of them are not. So the reds are not perfectly matched. They're slightly different. So you could do it, but it would be a situation where you would have to correct that with some custom profiling. So here is a big old 700 ml cartridge for the Pro 2000 and up family, and you can remove the inks. It takes a bit of a attempt, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to eventually get some bottles, get some 500 ml bottles, 250 ml bottles probably, and just drill a hole here, and just pour the ink out into these bottles, decant it that way, and just get rid of the cartridges itself. I mean, I shouldn't really do that because at some point these cartridges can be valuable because they can be refilled, you know. But if you just simply drill a hole the correct diameter so you can plug it, then you can refill those cartridges directly through the plug hole. And that's what we're going to be doing, by the way, with these. Okay. Yes, pressure filling, vacuum filling, the two methods that are recommended for this are good. But what the heck? You can drill a hole right here, or right up here, right in that little corner. That's the thickest part of this cartridge body. 5/32 of an inch. Nice, sharp, brand new drill bit. Don't use a dull bit. It will make the hole bigger than it has to be, and it will not seal on your plug. So nice, brand new drill bit. If you have a drill press or a friend with a drill press, even better. When it's brand new, the reverse helix on the drill will pull chips out. They will not fall inside. And even if they do, you just flush it with water, shake it, and hopefully get all the chips out. The chips cannot enter the ink system anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So what do? From now on, we'll be able to just fill these like we fill any other cartridge with a plug. Okay, I don't have to go through the vacuum process, which can be a little bit messy if you don't do it carefully. Okay, you can have an overpressurized cartridge at the end, and you get ink all over yourself. Not a pretty sight. It'd be a good picture for Facebook, so your friends can laugh at you, but it will not be fun. So better just drill a hole and put a plug in that you can just use repeatedly. The same thing with the larger cartridges. Okay, and you could buy bigger plugs as well. Just make sure that your drill diameter is correct so that plug seals perfectly. Okay, you do not want leaking cartridges, believe me. All right, let's see. Alan McKean says Precision Colors is expecting delivery of a Pro 200 any day. Can you check with Mike on the compatibility of the Pro 100 cartridges when he gets the printer? Spring 2021 for the inks. Yeah, I think I haven't officially brought it up to him, but I think it's going to be feasible. I just don't see any reason why it wouldn't be. Once you disable ink monitoring, even if it depends on the Pro 200 chip, I rather take the chip out of the Pro 200 cartridge and pop it into the Pro 100 cartridge. I can see when I refill, I can see it. Even if it requires a chip for whatever, for color ID. I don't think it does, but even if it did, okay, it would still be better. It would still be better to be able to see how your sponge is reacting to your refilling. You can't do that with an opaque cartridge. Let's just say this is a Pro 200 cartridge. You will not be able to see how saturated your sponge is. Okay, that's very important as you cycle through several refills the same cartridge, and you're not very good at making sure you refill when it's just low or before low. Okay, you have to do that so that the sponge remains saturated. The sponge is being fed ink. As you draw ink out, ink comes in almost simultaneously. There's a tiny micro period of time where you have a deficit. That's what allows ink to then be pulled in, that slight deficit. But when you run out of ink out of the chamber, this chamber right here, when it's dry up, how are you going to continue to keep that sponge saturated. That's when you start drawing ink out of the sponge with nothing to replenish it. And what comes in? Air. And air prevents ink from entering the sponge later. So you don't want to do that. So I want a cartridge I can be able to see through. That's all. The whole point of that discussion. And so yeah, I think it's going to be feasible. And my friend Rick Johnson's going to have his hands full. Believe me. He provides us with ready to go cartridges. All right. So Robert Minnick says the XP 15,000 card on a scale and found them to be about 14 grams empty. Okay. So that's great. As you may have seen, gosh, like what, 3 weeks ago when Mike was with us, and he kind of took us on a tour of the internal components of those cartridges and how they are vastly superior to refillables. I got those crappy refillables over there. What am I going to do with them? I may test them. I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. I don't know yet. So maybe while I have the cartridges in the other room getting ready to be refilled, I will replace them with those just so that the print head is kept covered and sealed. But I'm not going to feed that ink through the printer. So anyway, 14 grams, and I think it's like 25 grams full. Okay. So it's 22 point something when you open it from the little bag. These are your setup tanks actually have a little bit more ink than the regular size tanks you buy later for, I think it's $10.99 each. And then the color red and the gray come in XL size, which is about $21 per cartridge. You don't need the XL size. They're the same cartridge, okay? They're just filled to capacity, okay? So these cartridges, the setup ones, can be filled to almost XL capacity, which is about 25. I think Mike said something. Did he say 27 grams? I'm not sure. We'll see. We're going to see how much ink we can actually pack in those cartridges. Now, the catch is don't ever let them go empty with that internal little valve that has a little spring in it. And that's what it uses to sort of trigger the ability for the printer to use all of the ink. Because remember, there were some class action suits that were filed against these companies because people were throwing away cartridges that were declared empty that had a respectable amount of ink in them. Okay. So that was one. And so Epson came up with this design now. So that will not happen again. So that you will be using every drop of ink in that print cartridge, that printhead ink cartridge. Just like these, you use every drop of ink out of these. These you don't. You don't. There's 10 ml left after it's empty. Again, these you don't. Pro One, you don't either. There's about 4 or 5 ml empty when it's empty. So again, that's happening throughout the whole printer realm. Only these newer designs allow you to use all of the ink. So if you go till empty, then something kicks in that prevents that bag from being fully collapsed. You want it to be collapsed so you can pack it full of ink. Okay. If it's not collapsed, you can only insert an amount of ink that will allow it to expand to full, but it should have started in this condition because this level, that's all air. So maybe 3 to 4 ml, you can't pack in if you let it go empty. So the trick is to never let it go empty. Always refill them before. So never go to the point where it weighs 14 grams. No, you see what I mean? So maybe at 25 grams, not, what am I saying? So maybe at like 17 or so, take them all out and refill them and put them back in. Okay, remember, you're going to be chipless, okay? You're going to be chipless with a printer. To make this happen, you have to be chipless, okay? And so then you just subscribe to this type of routine, or however often you need to do it. You're going to be the judge of that. It depends on your printing frequency. I just made almost a 13 by 19 the other day. It came out gorgeous. I'm going to give you that little tour a little bit later. So let's continue on. Leon del Sur. That's the lion from the south. Yes. Hola, Jose. Happy New Year. Been printing at the Pro 100 and love it. Thinking about getting a printer for panoramics. How the XP 15,000 compares to the quality of the Pro 100. I don't know how big you can print. I don't know how long you can print. The Pro 100, oh, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you in a bit. Don't go away. It's not going to be a perfect situation here because I just got a crappy webcam, but take my word for it. It is quite a performer. Yeah, I'm impressed by it, and you gotta do a lot to impress me. Coporo Frito or Coporo Frito, recommended ink resellers in Europe. Depends where you are. I don't know anything about outside of the UK, and that's Octo Ink. octoink.co.uk. Octo Ink, like octopus, Octo Ink. And then there's one called Octopus, which I think is maybe in Germany, some other place. But the only ones that I recommend are the Octo Ink or maybe Marut, Marrut, I believe. Marut. They're also been around for quite a while, and they service the UK, I believe. Craig R. Nice looking couple, man. What about commercial printers looking for a cheap way to refill a Finia L801 inks for my commercial label printer? Uses MJet print head HP technology. Hoping you can help me. I'm sorry, man. I have no clue what that is. I have no idea. What kind of cartridges does it have? You have to determine whether they are internally, how do they hold the ink, and how would you get ink in them, and do they have a chip that needs to be reset, which probably cannot be reset? I have no clue. Never heard of that. I mean, I'm only a photo printer guy, so I'm totally ignorant when it comes to that. Sorry, Craig. Maybe someone else here has some idea what that might be. Big Game James is a Canon Pro 100, which is the best art paper you recommend for glissé type prints with art. Well, glissé is usually a term used for, it's a French term. It just means officially, get this, it means ejaculation. Okay, it means squirt. So squirt refers to inkjet technology, and it's kind of kept for canvas printing, okay, and not necessarily regular photos on paper. The term giclée, it's really meant for your canvas prints, okay, especially people that do photographic prints from actual paintings, and then they frame them, and not frame them, but stretch them on bars and frames and sell them that way. Those are the giclée family, but you know, it just means inkjet printed images. Pro 100 is not a giclée printer, okay? That's dye ink, and that's really reserved for pigment ink, that term. So if you just mean fine art, just get any fine art paper that's compatible, and that would be for the Pro 100. That would be something with a shine, okay, not necessarily matte. Matte doesn't do very well with the that type of printer. So you would have to experiment, buy some sample packs, and just go to town, have fun, and see. Some papers will perform fabulously, and some will not. It's not a free for all, you know. So. I'm down to half. Kimbari, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Got a Canon 8320. Awesome. After watching your review, and I'm so happy with it. Thanks for your videos. Yeah, it's a great little printer. Great little printer. I'm thinking about buying. I just saw a set of, what was it, four original setup cartridges, four sets of original setup cartridges, less the blue. So I have to buy extra blue ones for like $50 for four sets. So I may have to buy that so that my wife has lots of ink to burn through, and then I will then modify those cartridges for refilling and use Precision Colors inks, and I'll always have cartridges to go. And so even if I disable one of the channels every once in a while, once I pop a regular cartridge in it that is full officially, it will reset itself to full ink monitoring anyway. So it's not a end of the world, if you will. You can always go back. Stephen Paulboy, Toronto, Canada, Pro 100, one with PC inks, and then one 24-inch HP Z9 something. Too much snow up here. Haha, yeah. Yeah, that's what Mike told me. He's in Toronto too. Mike Cheney is here. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Happy holidays. It's been too long. Hope you are doing well. Just been so busy here. Many times never seem to line up with the streams lately. Even after I put them at 3 o'clock just for you. No, I'm lying. That was for the overseas people, so that they wouldn't have to stay up so late listening to me ramble. You'll have to keep me in form of any updates. All right. I think this is Wendy. No, this is someone else. Hi, me from the UK. Did I check? Did a head check yesterday? Wait a minute. This is someone else. There's another Mrs. something. Her name is Wendy, and she's from Belgium. So this is someone else. All right, from the UK. Did a head check yesterday and found a streak running the whole length of the head. You mean the whole length of the nozzle check? Is that what you're talking about? No effects on the prints. Clean the head, still there. Any idea for this? Is Epson? Oh, you 4800. Okay. I don't know what you did in the head check. I don't know what that means. Um, Head check to me, layman's terms, means a so-called nozzle check. So I don't know what the streak means. And there's no effect on the. How did you get a streak on one and there's no effect on the prints? Are you refilling? Are you using OEM only, original manufacturer's equipment, OEM? That's what that means for anyone who wanted to know. Enlighten me a little bit, okay? Tell me what exactly you encountered here, because we might be able to address this. AGS Schmidty. AG Schmidty. Hi, Jose. Merry Christmas. Bought myself a Rototrim M30. Awesome. I have a time now. What do you want to see on a P900 video? Whatever you want. Whatever you want. Did you see what I just have here? I know are you overseas? Are you in the US or overseas? P900, P700 resetters. Okay. I don't know whether these are going to work or not. It might work for people overseas. It might not work for people here in the US. So let me know. All right. Here is our friend Wendy. You just skipped me in the beginning. No problem. Hey, let me see. Where were you? I did not see you. No, I'm sorry. I didn't see you. And I'm going back to the beginning. You are not there. You know I would never skip you. Absolutely not. Nope. Something must have happened and your comment didn't really come through. So hope you are well. Hope everything is quiet over there. Again, in my beloved Belgium. Germany. All right. So this might work for you. And there is a way that I am going to come up with, if possible, to allow us to refill the original P900 and P700 cartridges. Okay. Then you can use whatever ink you wish. And these resetters, one for the maintenance cartridge and one for the actual cartridges themselves. We'll see if they work at all. Okay. Now, here's my pitch. So I would have to keep this for just USA people because I don't want you people in other countries to ship cartridges to me unnecessarily. Then I would have to ship them back to you after I reset them or modify them or whatever. That would be too much work for both of us. So I want people in the US who have a P900 or a P700 to just send me one of your empties. Okay. As soon as it reaches near empty is better because that will mean the chip is not fully declared empty yet. Okay. And that might be the key here. Just like it is on the TO58s, these babies right here, you cannot let them go empty. Okay. These. Where's the front? Yeah. These babies. You cannot let them go empty, otherwise the resetter will not work. Okay. Larry Mendoza watching from Paris, France. You poor guy. Man. I feel so sorry for you in Paris. I'm kidding. We had a wonderful time there as well. Got to go a couple of times. Got to go to Versailles and see the famous light show at night. Visited the castle. Stephen Polvoy says, trying to make a few dollars with my 24-inch HP printer. Would like to know which papers to use for? I don't know about HP papers, but any third-party brand that's compatible, assume is pigment inks, will work. And again, sample packs. Get some sample packs and just try them out. Just have some fun. Load up a bunch of your regular images that you plan to print and just test it. And make sure that the papers that you buy will provide you with ICC profiles for those HP printers. See, unfortunately, they're very biased. They only recognize Epson and Canon, okay, printers, not so much HP. HP left the consumer photo market here in the US. Everything that HP sells now is for the home use, for your office, all-in-ones, copiers, and that type of thing, and not necessarily high-quality photo printers. Okay, yeah. The beauty of landscapes, again, is that the colors don't have to match 100% accurate to what the original landscape was. They just have to look good. It just has to look good to the eye. So again, that requires adjustment of your images and a good profile and a paper that just happens to get along well. Not every paper will get along with every printer. Okay, some papers will excel when you marry them to a particular printer model. So it's a catch, not a catch-22, but it's kind of a crapshoot, I should say. You just have to experiment. Keep checking until you find that one magical combination. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. And then stick to it. Don't mess around going through, dozens and dozens of different kinds of paper. You'll never arrive at something. It'll just drive you nuts. You'll get so complicated and so confused. Yeah, I've gone through that, believe me. All right, I hope they will work longer than a week. They do firmware updates every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so whatever you want to do on the video, just do it. Put it up on YouTube. Give me the link. I will spread it all over my Facebook group, and I will actually share it as well. Because we need to see that printer in action. I don't want to view anything done by Epson. That's going to be biased. Okay, I want to see a real user put it through the test, and I want to see it on video. Okay, Stephen. Okay, yeah. Portraits, skin tones. That has to be accurate. People. It has to be. So you got to find a paper that's going to be, really, what's the word? Complementary. Yeah, to that type of subject. The same papers will not work for landscapes or pictures of icebergs, or pictures of antique cars, or you know airplanes flying. No, each subject will sort of be gravitate itself to a certain type of paper. You just got to find out which paper that is. And there's no way I can tell you that, or anyone else. It's up to you, because you will determine what you like. And don't go to the market. Okay, stick to your own guns, and do something that you love to do. And believe me, people will appreciate that. No, I haven't. Come on, send them back to me again. I'm an idiot. I lost them. Sorry. Gotta get. You gotta like hit me over the head sometimes. I don't know what happened to them. I'm serious. Stephen Polboy. Okay, HP Z9 Plus. Printers can do its own profile. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought I saw that demonstrated in the Luminous Landscape videos. Uh, Jeff Huey, or whatever his name is, Shuey, and I forget the other guy, the Canadian guy, who has the Z 3200, as he calls it. If that's an advantage for you, then go for it. Absolutely. We need more printers, professional printers that can do that. Skip Barber, is there anyone that S? What is that? That is okay. Hang on. Is there anyone that needs empty Epson P600 cards? They're pretty much useless, I think. Let me. I don't have one here with me, but here's a refillable R3000, which is the same thing, the same body, everything. That variety of Epson printers, they've made it impregnable, impenetrable. By that I mean, I haven't come up with a way to be able to refill those. They have so many baffles and so many chambers that have to be, this diaphragm has to be affected. No, it's just nothing you can really use them for. Unfortunately, I hate to throw away things like that, but yeah, they're pretty much, there's really no use for them at this point. Okay, Jose, to your knowledge, are Epson printers still suffering from head clogging, or did Epson fix the problem? They never really suffer from head clogging. Okay, they suffer from people not printing on them enough. So remember, it's a cold printing technology printhead. It doesn't have to heat the ink to print it like Canon printers do. The reason that Canon printers seem like they do not clog is because they're constantly cleaning themselves, and your Epsons don't force you to do that. So if you print for 2 days and then don't print for a month and a half, you're going to have clogs. Simple as that. If your Canon printers didn't clean themselves, you will have clogs as well. It's really not one advantage over the other. It's not one printer brand over another. It's really, we just don't print enough, and I'm guilty of that as well. They have really improved the printhead technology, though, to the point where it's pretty rare occurrence, especially the newer printers. Yeah, nozzle check. A streak like a knife cut on the test print along all the nozzle central area. Looks like no ink. You sure it's not a scratch? Okay. Yeah, it could be something else. It could be something else totally. All right. We have reached the bottom of the list already. So, and it's already what, an hour and almost and a half. So I'm going to tell you how I got to this point. So just kick back and hopefully enjoy this story. So we have 50 people listening. So it goes back to, my childhood in Puerto Rico. So let me give you a little background. My grandparents immigrated to Puerto Rico before Puerto Rico became a U.S. possession after the Paris Accord. And so the Treaty of Paris after the Spanish-American War, basically. And so right around, I think it was 1905 is when they made all existing people in the island U.S. citizens, and anyone born after that, automatic citizenship. So my grandparents already lived there, and my grandfather was an accountant. My mother's parents also lived right next door, okay, right next door to them in a southernmost town called Ponce. They call it the Pearl of Puerto Rico. It's a beautiful town by the southern coast of the island. So my mother's father owned basically a painting supply store. Okay, so he sold paints, and the other grandpa was an accountant. And of course, back in those days, mothers stayed home and tended to the family and ran the house. Okay, old fashioned. And so my mom and dad would see themselves through the kitchen windows, which happened to match. They aligned themselves. My father was one of four siblings. His oldest was a brother who built small fishing boats for a living. He made custom boats in his backyard shop. And he was in love with my mom, okay, with Eva. Eva lived right across. Eva was the oldest of how many? Of nine children. And so he was too shy to profess his love for my mother. So my father, being a lot more aggressive, swept her off her feet. And then World War II hit. And so he was drafted into World War II, and he served in the South Pacific until the war ended. Then he came home. I went to, I think he was stationed in the lower coast of Alaska, the Aleutian Islands, one of those very, very small volcanic islands there. That was a very critical, very tactically critical area after the war. So then after that, he served in what is now Fort Sam Houston, Texas, in San Antonio, in our artillery brigade. And then my mom said, "Hey, are you going to marry me or what?" Because they had been engaged for 8 years, literally. So my father refused to reenlist and immediately went home, and they got married. My mom was living in New York at that time. They went back to Puerto Rico. And so I was born, 3 years later in 1949. And so about age 3, my sister was born. I had asked Santa Claus on the phone to please send me 7 sisters. What was I thinking, right? So thank God only one sister arrived, and I fell in love with her. She was so cute. And so long story short, after that, I went to kindergarten, and my mom had sort of home trained me, I guess you can call it, prior to actually attending school. So I was able to jump from kindergarten to second grade directly, and from second grade to fourth grade directly. But I was a little kid, among much bigger kids. So psychologically, it just affected me a little bit. So at age 9, I was already very, I guess you can say, advanced in some of the sciences and things like that, those subjects. And so I really got hooked on photography. I was falling in love with all my mother's picture albums. And then the big wedding took place. My aunt and uncle, my oldest aunt, my father's sister, married a very well-to-do Spaniard. We lived in one of his properties. Was a big business owner in Puerto Rico. And his daughter was married in Spain. So they went to Spain to get his daughter married off. It was kind of arranged. And a local photographer went to cover the wedding. And when they got back, I saw the album. And that's it. That's it. I fell in love with photography. So I asked him, I want to be a photographer. So you know what he told me? He says, read, read, and read. So I did. I read my Spanish encyclopedia, the letter P, photography, all about it. And then Kodak had a store in one of the main avenues in my town, which I visited all the time. You'll never guess what I did. Eventually, I bought what would be at that time a very advanced color printing set of chemicals. I didn't know what I was doing. But anyway, I did it anyway. And I moved up to a little pocket camera using 127 film. Those, those of you who are old enough to remember that know what I'm talking about. So I learned how to develop. I was developing my film on a soup bowl, basically, by hand, in the dark. And eventually, my dad bought me an enlarger. It was very simple, very cheap, actually, enlarger, about $100 back then. And I commandeered my mom's walk-in closet as my darkroom. Then, by that point, I was already in middle school, and my English teacher, my English talking was terrible. It still is. Conversation was terrible. And so this teacher, which I remember now as one of the two teachers I remember my whole life, kind of took me under his wing. He was from Mexico. And Hernandez was his name, Mr. Hernandez, my English teacher, also ran the after school camera club or photography club. I begged my mom over and over and over, and she finally let me join. And so I did my homework during lunch, and I went to photography school after school. And this man had an Exacta camera from Germany, one of the 1949 or 1950 models. I had to have one of those. So I went to a local camera shop downtown Los Angeles. I was 10? No, 11 at that point. And I took the bus downtown from where we live. We live right down the hill from Dodger Stadium, the ball team in LA, the LA Dodgers. So went downtown, found one for $20 used, bought it. Okay, I had $20 and some change in me, bought it. And that's it. It started then. I was doing nothing but photography. What? Having a girlfriend? No, that never occurred to me during the time. And of course, I was also involved in music. So that was my whole school career, my academics, of course, and music. So I graduated quite early. I was only about almost 17 when I graduated, not quite. And so I went to the local community college. The Vietnam War had already broken and started. I got into college, and I think I lasted like a year and a half before the draft got me because I wasn't holding enough credits. Okay, my bad. So went into the Army, went to Fort Ord, California for my basic training. Then after that, I went to Fort Sam Houston, Texas, to become a combat medic. That's what the Army said I was made for. So there I am in Fort Sam, went through the school. About the 9th week of school, a gentleman came from another, I don't know where he came from. He was in uniform, and he asked for volunteers for another MOS or military operational specialty. And I thought anything better than a combat medic. I didn't want to go to Vietnam and get killed, right? So ended up that they were looking for folks to become occupational therapy technicians. So I ended up writing an essay. About 120 of us applied. They picked 13, and I was one of them. So I ended up going to Fifth Simmons Army General Center or General Hospital in Denver, Colorado, in the winter. Okay, which was wonderful. I had never seen snow in my life, so I was like a little kid stomping through the snow. Yeah, ridiculous for a grown boy to do that, but I was having fun. So I asked for a possibility of being stationed in California. We ended up at Letterman General Hospital in San Francisco. There I met my wife, and we started dating. Well, I was working at the OT clinic, occupational therapy clinic. Had a wonderful time there. Learned how to rehab people that had am- amputees, amputated limbs. That's the word, amputated limbs. I had a gentleman who looked like a young kid who couldn't even stand. We had him on a special high chair that kept his back locked and his knees locked and his butt locked. And so he was able to stand and play board games. His head was caved in. He was missing part of his cranium and could barely speak, had to be helped with everything. And so I spent 6 months doing that with this man. He and I became good friends. One day, he was never appearing at the clinic any longer. What happened to him? And so it ended up he had to travel to Los Angeles. So he comes back about a week later, back to the clinic. And turns out this man was a medevac helicopter pilot who had extracted wounded from the worst firefights you could ever imagine. And he went to LA, where a representative from, I guess, Washington, D.C., I guess he couldn't really travel that far, presented the Congressional Medal of Honor to him. So it was quite an honor to have him back. And I was like incredibly shook up over this. Well, shortly after that, my head nurse, my colonel, asked me, hey, I see you bringing in all these photos and all of this photography. There's an opening with the newspaper, the hospital newspaper. They need a photographer. My company commander received notice, and we were in formation. I know this is getting to be long, but you're going to get to know me perfectly. So we're in formation. I'm a young boy, 21 years old. I'm standing at attention. The commanding officer says, are there any photographers in my platoon? People are pushing me to raise my hand, and I said, no, I don't want to. And finally, I went like this, and he says, report to the orderly room after formation. The orderly room is where the commanding officer works and all his clerks, and where you pull duty at night. So went to the orderly room. All of a sudden, this captain, Valenti, he was Italian, Captain Valenti. All of a sudden, it's like he didn't have his rank on. He treated me like a regular person. He wanted me to shoot his daughter's recital. Said, yes, sir. Whenever, anytime. And so we set up the time. He took me out to dinner. Unheard of. That's unheard of. He and his wife took me out to dinner, and his daughter. We went to the theater. I shot the photographs, and then I said, you know what? He says, I would be interested in finding out how you do this process. Well, having worked now for the newspaper, because my MOS was changed at a stroke of the pen, I was now working at the newspaper for the hospital, and my place of duty was above the bowling alley where we had our darkroom and office set up in the attic of this building. So there I am now with my company commander. Again, unheard of. You just do not patronize with your company commander. Those of you who have served in the military, you know damn well you just don't do that. Okay, so there I am with this man, and I'm showing him how to develop the film, how to do the prints, and so forth. Then he asked me, "What rank are you?" I said, "I'm only a PFC." Really? How long have you been in? He was very formal. I said, "So many months." I said, "Okay, all right." So the next thing I know, I get a yellow envelope, metal envelope in my mail with promotion orders. I have been promoted to E4 at that point. Again, no one gets promoted that way. That kind of ticked off my information officer, a lieutenant. Okay. I said, hey, I'm sorry. I had no control over this. So that's it. My career went from that point. I got to meet movie stars. I got to meet famous people, famous sports stars. Even the Playboy Bunnies came to entertain the troops. Again, this was the amputee center for rehab for the military. Now it's Walter Reed. Okay, now it's Walter Reed here in Bethesda, Maryland. So I got out. IETS, but before that, I met my wife, remember, and we had been dating, so we decided to get married. We went to Reno and got married in Reno. We came back, and I said, you know what? What the heck am I doing getting out of the military? I don't have a job. I don't even know what to do now. So I reenlisted again, and I was given an assignment in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And my wife and I flew to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, rented a little, uh, like a mobile trailer, and that's what we lived in. We were paying $100 a month. I went to a car dealer, bought a car, and I was saying it was like what, $41 a month. It was a Toyota Corona back then, 1968. Toyota Corona for like $1,800, you know. And so that's it. That's how we started. My career then went from there all throughout the Army. I worked for many different photo labs, ended up going to one of the prestigious photo labs in NATO in Belgium. So those of you who live in Belgium know what a SHAPE is, SHAPE, Supreme Allied Headquarters Powers Europe. That's what I work for. I had to achieve the highest level of security possible. They call it Cosmic Top Secret, or CTS. And then after that, after my 3 glorious years in Belgium, and I got to go to Photokina in Germany as well. We traveled all over Central Europe. Had to come back. So we ended up in Virginia, and I worked at the Pentagon. So we were working at the Army Audiovisual Center. At the Pentagon, I was assigned to the color facility in Fort Myers. Okay, that's right next to Arlington Cemetery. So I ran one of the print rooms in Fort Myers Color Lab. And so that's where I finished basically my photographic career. After that, I was going to be, they decided to reclassify me as an infantry. And I thought, I'm almost in my mid 30s. There's no way I'm going to become an infantry soldier. So I went back to my medical branch and I said, is there anything open in the medical field that I can go to? And vet tech school, veterinary technology school, was open. So I had my previous training as a medic, and that qualified me to go to vet tech school, which I did in so-called Forest Glen, Maryland, which is part of Walter Reed, the old Walter Reed. I was assigned to the veterinary department, which was a basically animal, what was it called? A DLAM, Department of Animal something medicine. No, lab animal. Department of Lab Animal Medicine. It's a while back, sir. 80, 85, something like that. So that's where I spent my last few years, and I got to work with a gentleman who later on I took a job with as a civilian, and I got involved in photography, medical type photography with him. And I did histology, which is the preparation of tissues for the pathological examination. And it was a infectious disease laboratory, basically. And I went there with no knowledge whatsoever. And in 24 years, I knew as much as a PhD, okay, without having the PhD. So retired in 2012 officially from that private contractor's job. So I wasn't a GS worker. I was a private contractor. So I was able to immediately work once I got separated from the Army or retired from the Army. So I did 22 years in the Army. Then I retired, and I did 22, almost 23 years as a private contractor. And then I retired. Just at the time, my daughter announced to us, Daddy, I'm pregnant. And I thought, there goes my leisure time. And I was just hoping to just lay around and do nothing, in the Bahamas someplace. Nope. Got a grandson coming. So I was excited to death. Okay, so that's it. At that point, I had already been playing around with printing, but I was getting nowhere with it. I didn't know what I was doing. Inconsistencies out the wazoo, as they say. Every day was a different story. Every day was a different adventure because of my inconsistencies. My settings, which I thought were irrelevant, ended up being very relevant. So I wasn't listening to anybody. I found all these forums to go to, but hey, I've been doing this since I was 8, folks. Don't you dare lecture me about what to do. That was Mr. Ego here. At one point, I just got sick of it, okay, because I couldn't get anywhere. I found out about ICC profiles. What the heck is that? Oh, you're supposed to print through an ICC profile when you choose a specific paper and a specific printer. I did that. I chose double profiling, but who knows what that was, right? Nobody knew what that was. So every time I did that, my photos were dark. I was printing, basically letting the driver correct automatically color. And I was using like Epson sRGB mode, which is, of course, wrong if you want to really get serious about printing. So at some point, I ran across this gentleman in one of the forums, and finally, it was like I heard in the background of my mind a choral bunch of angels going, ah. And I was in bed. I am not kidding you guys. I was in bed, half asleep. And the concept of ICC profiles or color management finally hit me. I could not get it. I could not get it. And I consider myself, relatively smart. I couldn't comprehend it. And finally, it was like the fog was lifted, and there I was now in nirvana. I knew it. I knew it. I knew what it meant. I knew what the application was for, and so forth. And I couldn't sleep. I stayed up half the night. I almost got up and went to my printer, but I didn't. I waited till the next day. And yeah, once I did things correctly, and that meant either printing with the printer driver using the correct settings, not one of those automated settings. I'll show you what those are. They'll get you nowhere. Okay. Let me see if I can do this. I'm going to go over. And I left out, the formation of this channel. I had been doing a lot of machining. I did a lot of woodworking, and I did a lot of furniture building. I did miniature furniture, by the way, museum grade miniature furniture. I was kind of famous back in the 70s through the 90s, and I gave it up. And I sold to movie stars. I sold to museums in Beverly Hills. So enough bragging. I gave a lot of classes and all of that. Anyway, it was fun. I still do a little bit of it. And so I got into machining, micro machining. I wanted to create little miniature, like steam engines and things like that. So I got into the uses of lathes. I did some of that in school. So I had a little bit of background, milling machines, drilling machines, not the big monsters, but the small ones. Very accurate work. And so I started doing videos on that, and the videos were basically VHS. I found a company out of Los Angeles that was willing to sell them for me, and I still do that. I still sell them those now DVDs. They're not VHS anymore. And so since I was already doing that, and I didn't quite know how to go beyond that, and then YouTube appears out of nowhere. I think it was like 2009 is when YouTube started to come out. I immediately joined. And I uploaded all my videos, all my digital videos to YouTube. It's a great place to store them. And then from that point, people said, hey, listen, you've been participating in these forums for a long time, and now you seem what you know. You seem to know what you're doing now. Why don't you start creating some videos? So I said, no, you're crazy. Why? Why would anybody want to see any of this? So after a lot of nagging, I started doing them, and they were really crude back then. And I started posting other things. I have a lot of old junk in my channel right now that you can go back and search to the very beginning, 2009, and see what I was doing. And YouTube was its own entity. They weren't controlled by Google at that point. So it was pretty nice. It was a free-for-all for everybody. And so I started doing that. I started making videos about printing. And things evolved until about 2017 is when I reached a point where YouTube says, okay, now you can apply for partnership. So I did. And my first $50 was I was nuts. I went nuts when I first made my first $50. And at that point, you had to actually make 100 to be able to get any money to actually be sent to you. So it took me like 3 months to make $100. And again, I was thrilled. And so it began to grow exponentially, you know, not the money, but the views and the subscribers. And so now I'm happy to say we're going to hit 39,000 probably in the next day or so. So here I am. And so now I finally got what I was basically neglecting to learn from those who knew better because of my ego. So I'm not saying everybody else has an ego like mine. No, they don't really. I'm really bad sometimes. So once I kind of let that sort of drain off and I began to listen and learn, is when I finally got it. And then I started to experiment with every kind of printer I could get a hold of. And that's basically it. I've gone through probably 30 different printers and gotten to today. It was a learning experience. I made a ton of mistakes, learned from all of those mistakes. I used I guess by working in a laboratory, research lab, you got to know how to troubleshoot. So I was able to come up with ways to fix things. Things were going wrong. What could be wrong? Well, process of elimination. That's what we used to do. And so I was able to advance to the point where I am now, where I can basically print on any of my printers without having any worry about what it's going to look like when it comes out of the printer. And that's my goal. I want you guys to be able to achieve that point. And so that's it. That brings us to today. And this year has been crazy, of course. And none of that has prevented us from continuing to grow, which is great. I mean, we don't worry about all of those things that do not affect us personally. Um, to me, printing is a relief from life. I go down here and I have an image, whether I find an image from someone else and I go, wow, what would that look like on this or that printer? And I play with it a little bit and I send it to the printer and I go, wow, this is really nice. And I send that guy a note and say, wow, that image that you posted on that forum is fantastic. I just made a print. And if they send me their address, I'll mail it to them. Usually they don't, but that's what I do. And of course, I started then getting comments from you guys. Somebody said, you need to create a Facebook group, which I then did. And I haven't looked, but it's got to be well over 6,000 members now. Unfortunately, they changed the format. Why can't people leave things well enough? Okay. The UI was perfect at the time. No, they had to change it. And now I cannot find. There used to be a section where I could actually find the new subscribers and then put a weekly post welcoming all of these new names. And it would post all of the people's names. And I would get lots of replies back thanking me. Again, not a lot of groups do that. Ever since they changed it, it's gone. I cannot access all of the new members anymore. I would have to do it by hand, and that would be no, I don't want to do that. It used to be it's press up a button and you could do it. All right, let's go back now that I have driven you guys crazy with my history. Let's go back. And what I'm going to do, inkchip.net sent me 5 waste ink pads resetting serial numbers. Okay. And you need to utilize their resetting software, their WIC tool, they call it. But it's not the same WIC tool as the original WIC tool. Here's the problem. And I was going to start giving them away like one a week. Okay. It would have to be only for those of you who have an Epson printer that is basically supported by the software and the activator. Not all of them are. Printers that have user replaceable cartridges, those are not supported. You just replace the cartridge. You don't need this. Those are only for Epson printers with internal waste ink pads. And so what you do is you open up the tool. It sees your printer that you have attached to your computer via USB. It identifies it. You can read the levels. And if you decide at that point, okay, they're pretty high, I'm going to go ahead and reset it. You hit reset, you copy and paste your serial code and click through the instructions. Next, it asks you to turn off your printer. You turn it off, turn it back on. You're going to reboot it basically. And then when you do your ink levels, waste ink level check again, it will show it as being 0. Well, that's fine and dandy unless you feed that hose outside. What hose is that? The hose from your purge pump, okay, that actually sends that waste ink to your internal waste tank, waste pads, deep on the crevices of your printer, at the very bottommost section of your printer. So if you continue to reset, it's going to eventually overflow with waste ink, is what I'm trying to say. So you need to set up an external waste ink catcher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this next week. I'm going to post, for example, this is what I'm talking about. So inkchip.net. All right, so you would go to Wix. You see Wix right here? You go there. See that? Okay. English, and you download that. Now here's the catch. Here's what's happening. Because this is kind of a hacking piece of software. Depending on what kind of protection you have on your computer, it will see it as a severe Trojan. And I just discussed that with them this afternoon. I sent the sales rep an email saying that I don't feel comfortable having people download this piece of software and then be shocked when their system tells them that they now have a severe Trojan. And so, of course, it's harmless. Okay, it's not really going to affect your computer in any way, shape, or form, but it is seen as something really harmful. So this is the list of printers. It's quite large. So I will send the link today. I'm going to post this today. I'll put it at the bottom of the chat. There's also a link on my video descriptions, by the way. So I want you guys to be prepared for next week. And I'm only going to do that here. I'm not going to do it on a regular video because that was a fiasco. Okay, so I'm going to put this here. You guys, at your leisure, check that. inkchip.net/WIC/. Have a look. If you find a printer that you own and you want to set it, the waste ink counter back to 0, then you got one that you got a printer that can actually be basically reset. Otherwise, if you do not, then don't even bother. What I'm going to do is that near the end of next week's live stream, I'm going to ask a question about something I discussed earlier. And the first person who gives me the correct answer, and again, if you don't have one of these printers, then please don't try, because I want to make this fair. I want to make this available to someone who can actually use it. Okay. And this is, I think, applicable for any printer anywhere in the world. So as long as it's listed on that list right there, then you can actually try to answer that secret question that I'm going to ask you. And again, it'll be about something I discussed during the live stream. Like, for instance, if I tell you where did I started to develop my films and my prints first, you would then say, in my mother's walk-in closet. See, that's what I said in my little talk earlier. So that would be the first person who answers that way. That would be the winner. And I would then provide them via email their very long code that you have to then copy and paste. All right, so let's go ahead and go back and look at the rest of the chat right here. Let me take this down. I want to show you a little bit later. Let's see. It is almost 5, so we got about another hour to go here. How much does it? Okay, there's a bunch of new questions here we're going to have to address. Oh, let's see. We got 53 people. Awesome. Wow, there's a lot of questions. Let me go back, way back up. I must have talked way long. But I hope you guys enjoyed my little story. That's how it came about. And in case any of you ladies who are here with us tonight, yes, my wife was my first date. Okay. We met in the military. She was active duty as well. She worked at the obstetrics clinic, and I was working as the hospital photographer at the time. And we just kind of ran into each other at the library, the hospital's library, and that was it. Okay. Okay, I think this is where we left off. Got my PC refill kit from for my Pro 10, and about to refill my first few cartridges. The empties I have are the original setup cartridges. Yeah, those are fine. They're absolutely identical. Um, just make sure that when you remove them and they're empty, that you replace that clip. Okay, you have to replace that clip. Otherwise, this little baby right here. Okay, so you replace it on the bottom as soon as you remove it from the printer, even though it's empty and you think you don't need to clip it, do so, because if you don't, that ink bag is going to re-expand and you won't be able to refill it. You will not be able to refill it. And not only that, the that sponge at the exit port will just dry out and will not allow ink to flow inside. Stefano says, I could not print with my Epson P700 for a month. Check done before to use it again, and everything was just perfect. What happened? Check done before to use it again. I don't understand. What happened? Something was preventing you from printing? Okay, Gary Gibelisco. Hi, Jose. Gary from Omaha. Pro 10 with PC inks. Awesome. All righty. Ramon Lepage says, Repaje. I'm pronouncing it in Spanish. I assume that's how you do it. Do you recommend printing from Canon Pronto Studio? You mean Print Studio Pro plugin or directly from Photoshop? No darken. Well, Print Studio Pro is sort of for the beginner photo printer who really is not very familiarized, he or herself, with color management. So I recommend you use it. It's a way to make sure that you are printing with the correct color management system. It does it kind of for you automatically anyway. So Lee Roberts, Jose, I calibrated my monitor today using the cheap Spider. I bought Data Color Spider 4 Express. Did not see much difference. Much difference from what? From your uncalibrated monitor? How did your uncalibrated monitor look? Was it good? Neutral? Correct density? All of that? I mean, if there's nothing to change, it's not going to change it. So if you're like near perfect at first, then it's not going to make much in the way of changes. Pixel Trainer. Wow, great story. Thanks for sharing. Oh, good. I'm glad I didn't put you all to sleep, man. Again, the key is, man, never stop learning. Never. Don't think you're so damn smart that you cannot learn anything from anybody because you're smart. No, you're not. You're still a big dummy. You know, I am. I'm learning constantly learning from people, especially people like Mike Lee and, Mike Cheney. All of these folks are just geniuses in the work that they are involved in. And so I just sit back and just soak it in. And then I act like I know everything, right? Because I don't tell you that I learned it from Mike Cheney or Mike Lee, right? I just act like Ooh, this guy's so smart. No, I'm not. I'm not that bad. Lee Roberts. Is Mike going to ship to the UK or still up in the air? He's thinking about the UK. The UK is not a big problem. Okay, the big problem comes from other countries. And I think because of the European Union and things are a little bit easier, he's considering getting back into it. The catch is countries that have a problem with liquids, okay? And we have to consider the situation we're in now. So whether you think it should merit problems, that the problems we have or not, it happens. I can't get a package, shipped from me from New York to me in less than 3 weeks. I mean, come on. You see what I mean? So we're working. One of the guys that's here tonight or was here earlier, he's volunteered to sort of become a distributor for us. So the idea is to maybe send orders to him. Here's what I think. I don't know. There's two ways to do this, right? If I'm a seller and I want to set up a distributorship in, say, Belgium, then I need to get Wendy to be my distributorship. Okay. And do I send my orders to her that I get from people all over Europe? And then she has to then ship them to those people? No. I would have to supply her with kits already ready to be shipped. Okay. And then I get an order and then I give it to my rep in Belgium. And then she posts it on the local post office service. And if it's going to go internally in Belgium, it's already covered. You know, it's not like I would have to then ship it myself to her and then she has to ship it again to someone else. No, I would ship her a lot of kits, some of the Pro 10, Pro 100, P800, okay, 7,000, 9,000, 200, 300, those kind of kits. And as the distributor needs kits, I would then send more kits, and then he or she would take care of the shipping throughout Europe. That's what Cone does. Okay, that's what John Cone is doing. I don't know where their center is in Europe, but that's it. They have a supply depot, if you will, ready to ship anything that they are supporting in that theater. Okay, you see what I mean? So I don't want to then get an order from John from Germany for me to then send it to Wendy in Belgium so that then Wendy can then up and send it to John in Germany. No, I want to send Wendy a bunch of kits and then John places an order. I send that order via email to Wendy and then she ships it to John in Germany. And then Wendy gets a cut. She gets a percentage. I think that would be the best way. But we got to sit down and figure this out. Wow, St. Augustine, Mirabel. Yeah. We have a St. Augustine in Florida, the oldest city in the United States. There's an old Spanish fortress there. That's amazing. Dear Legend, now I feel like I want to hug you even more. Come on. Jacques Suave. Pro 100, Pro 1000, and debuting cyanography. That's doesn't that use cyanide, some kind of cyanide compound? It's blue, right? Produces blue images. I love those old processes. There's a couple of people on YouTube that have channels and also on Facebook that perform all of those old classic photographic methods before we started dealing with silver. Xbox 199, best wishes from Germany near Heidelberg. I have a Pro 1000. Lots of Pro 1000s out there. How are you guys doing with the Pro 1000s in Europe? Are you refilling them? How are you doing that? Are you just sticking to OEM cartridges or what? Big Game James says, amazing story. Jose, what movie stars did you? Well. Let's see. Not Bob Hope. Bob Hope I saw in Korea when I was in Korea. Um, oh gosh, a bunch of gorgeous young ladies from the 70s. You got to remember this is early 70s. Um, the local football teams would come as well, baseball teams as well. Lots of promotions to go deep sea fishing, go to the race cars, tracks and the horse racing tracks and all kinds of things. I mean, they were just showering the patients with all sorts of extra goodies. And Playboy bunnies came. We went to Lake Tahoe to see some shows. We went pheasant hunting. It wasn't much of a hunt. I mean, they had them in cages and they let them loose, and a bunch of amputees basically shooting at them. And then we had them for dinner. We had a huge dinner after that. Oh God. People from Gilligan's Island, people from McHale's Navy, a lot of the movie stars, the FBI, the Efren Zimbalist Jr. came, and of course, also a bunch of like government type congressmen and congresswomen came to visit them, and I had to cover all of that. So Ella Fitzgerald, the famous female singer from the 40s and 50s, 30s, 40s and 50s, actually. She came. She was up in her years, but she was fabulous. It was just Ella, a bass, a big bass, and a piano player. It was fantastic. And we did it in the mess hall. And I still got that photograph. I got the 8x10 in my album upstairs. I should show that someday. How much does it cost to go chipless? It depends. It depends on the printer model. You just go to the either go to chiplesssolutions.com or inkchip.net and check the model. Make sure that it is supported for chipless, and it'll tell you the price. The one that I just gave away for the P800, that was a $60 price tag on there. They're not that high. This one's a little bit lower, about 50 something. Okay, but those are new. Those are new models, and they cost a lot more to come up with that firmware. I mean, programmers have to basically reverse program everything. Yes. The Playboy bunnies were pretty amazing, I must say. And also a bunch of like cheerleaders were coming. Oh my God. It was crazy. Remember, I was like 21 years old at that time, maybe just barely 20, 21. So it was a lot of fun. Pixel Trainer. I asked to join your Facebook group just before you mentioned it. Please approve my request. Okay. I'll do that right now. You let me know if you check in a few seconds here. And let's see. Let me go ahead and relog on. Let's see. Who are you again? Pixel Trainer? What's your real name? I got a bunch of new applicants here. I will just go ahead and approve them all. All right, everyone is now approved. So go back and have a look, and you should be in. All righty. And that's another thing. I can't even find how many members I got now when they changed the UI. It's ridiculous. Peter, hi from Copenhagen. Pro 10S, Pro 100 here. Happy New Year. Thank you, sir. There is the website to go to for the ink chip. And then for the other one, it's just chipless solution, one word. Chipless solution, one word.com. Lee Roberts, if I top off my OEM card on my 15,000 with third-party inks and I don't mix, is my printer now ruined? Likely not. I'm just going to say that. I mean, what inks are you using? You know, whether they react with your previous OEM ink or not. I usually recommend, in the case of a printer that has ink bags, let them go empty the first time. If you go chipless, you're going to have to keep them topped off pretty regularly because you will not have any idea how much ink is actually in the cartridge. I mean, we do know that empty is 14, but you really don't want to go below a certain level because that little valve will be activated and it will prevent you from having the ability to top it off to the complete capacity. There's a trick where you can take one of the caps. Let's just use this Pro 10 cap. And you're going to drill a little hole. You're going to stick a needle in there with a syringe, and you're going to apply that to your cartridge. You're going to suck that diaphragm, that bag, flat again, because it will not be flat because you activated that little valve. The little valve is there to allow you to empty the cartridge fully. And so when you do that, then you can refill it to the full capacity. Anyways, you will have to resort to that. One reason you might want to create one of those little clips is if you happen to find empties on eBay, okay, for the 15,000, or say you buy a second set and you forget to, empties would be that you buy would be empty and they would have to be then forced shut, that bag. You have to suck it completely shut for you to be able to then fully replenish it, in other words. Otherwise, you'll only partially fill it, and we don't want to do that. Wendy says, still OEM on my fresh Pro 1000, but if I only want to shift to third party when we have a very reliable supplier. Yeah, hopefully you'll be able to get some. We'll see. We'll discuss that with Mike. That'll be one of the printers that he would have to keep the distributor, whoever that is, you know who it is, supply with enough products so that he can then ship directly from there. All he does is receive the shipping, receive the, you would pay for the shipping, and then you subtract that from, you get profit, of course, for the service, and of course, get compensated for your shipping costs as well. I had that. I was doing that. I was doing exactly that. Remember, I said I was doing micro machining where I created 23 DVD titles that I sell through a company out in California called littlemachineshop.com. They deal with small machine tools. And so my videos are all instructional in content. And so I sell through them. And then another company that was stationed in the UK, I think it was the UK, it's been a while, would buy like 100 copies of each. And so I would just basically send them a whole crap load of DVDs, and then they would then distribute for me. They would pay me up front, and they would distribute for that for the rest of the country. So I wouldn't have to ship to Germany or Europe, Germany or the UK or Ireland or France or Italy, whatever. And so they took care of all of that. They did complete European distributorship. And I don't know whether they did worldwide as well, but that has kind of fallen through. So those were good days. I was making pretty good money with that. little adventure, that has kind of gone away. The hobby has sort of dropped in importance. All right, let's see what else we got here. So yeah, don't worry too much about that unless you're feeling with some really, really, bad inks that you have no idea what the sources are, or what the actual formulation is. So you don't want those compounds to react with each other. Okay, so we did you, Samuel Alcantara. Can I use Epson Ultrachrome HDR inks on the 3880, which is Ultrachrome P3? Yeah, you can. It's just you'll need to profile. You're gonna get all of a sudden this huge intensity on your reds, because of the vivid magenta and that realm, that area of colors, red, oranges, and pinks and magentas will shift quite a bit because your print engine has no clue you shifted over to vivid magenta, and especially these HDR new inks that are out there on the being used on the Sure Color printers. Vincent, what are you asking me? I asked to join you. Okay. Oh, Vincent. Yes, I activated everybody. Okay, so you should be in. Yep. Not a problem, man. No problem. All right, let me take you over on a little tour of that driver for the 15,000. And I've already made some mistakes. Okay, so I will share that with you. Then we're going to do a little bit of a show and tell, some photos, and show you where people claim that matte paper just is kind of dull, and I'm not getting the same pop I get with that same image printed on a shinier paper, whether it's luster or glossy. Of course you want. It's just the surface just imparts that little extra pop. But I'll show you some of these images and you'll see what I'm talking about. So here we are looking at the XP 15,000 driver. So the quick setup is right here. Now this has a bunch of options because this is a printer that can do all kinds of other things as well. And so you got to be really careful. Okay, this is what I have encountered. And I'm not going to go through everything, but if you go to page setup, go back to quick menu a minute. We have chosen a letter size 8.5 by 11 here, okay, or 22 by 28 centimeters. You go to print that, and you put that. Say you have an image that's 6 by, let's just say 5 by 7. This is just a scenario here. 5 by 7, and I want to center on a 8.5 by 11. Okay. But when it comes out, the image is 5 by 7, but it's over on the upper left corner, not centered. Okay. Here's what's happening. Here's what you got to be really, really careful here. Yeah, go ahead and pick your paper here. Okay, look at how many papers we have here. Lots of different paper, lots of different envelopes, and all kinds of different media here. All right, look at that. It's amazing. Like, what the heck is all of this? I have no idea. Okay, let's stick with this one. Boom. Go to page setup. Please do that. Okay, here you got letter size. Okay, this is the key right here, folks. Same as paper size. Okay, same as paper size. If that is not set to same as paper size, it may be assuming that you're going to actually print that letter size image, let's just say it's an image, onto a different paper size. And that's what's happened to me. And so you got to make sure, and the P800 has that as well, but it's not as critical as this is. You got a bunch of other layout options here and so forth. Take a look at this when you have time, okay? Print options. Look at this. All kinds of different things you can disable. And again, I'm not going to spend that time tonight to look through every little aspect of this driver, but it's got a lot of things you need to be looking at. And be careful you don't mess up. It happened to me. Okay, it happened to me the other day. All right, let's do a little show and tell. Oh, let me show you what these things look like. And again, I want some volunteers, 15, not 15, P900 users, P700 users. Save your cartridges for me, okay? The ones that are empty or near empty. If you really want to contribute, send me one that's not quite empty yet, okay? I know you will lose a little bit of ink, but this will help to determine whether this set of setters will work or not. Also, when your waste ink tank or cartridge gets declared as full, pack that in a couple of Ziploc bags and send it to me, okay? Please do that. Contact me at my email. If you're willing to volunteer, please contact me. Make sure I type this correctly in the dark here. No, of course I did not. All right. Tool Joe 1949. See? 1949 at yahoo.com. So here is the email I want you to contact me with, and I will provide you with the mailing address, and I will cover your shipping for you. Okay, don't worry about that. I'll PayPal you your shipping costs. Send them to me. I will go ahead and reset them, at least attempt to. And if they can be modified, and you don't mind, I'll go ahead and modify them for you, and I'll test the modification to make sure it will be able to be injected with ink. Okay, then I will send it back to you, and then you use whatever third-party ink, which will be available pretty soon. Inject them with that or fill them up to capacity. Empty box. Now this resetter, it looks like it's still in an experimental type condition. This covers the pin assembly. And I have a feeling that they have incorporated some sort of framing alignment system here. Again, I don't have a P700 or P900 cartridge. They're identical. The cartridge body are identical, so they will reset. And I assume that the chips are also identical. And maybe because one chip has half the capacity as the other chip, 900 versus the 700, I assume that this will recognize what chip it is resetting and, of course, reset it to the correct level. Here are the pins, and they're spring-loaded. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pins, and they're rather long, okay, much longer than your regular everyday Epson, older 9-pin or 7-pin resetter. I think maybe the chip is recessed on the cartridge itself, thus the need for these very long pins. So I don't know what this is selling for, but I got it for just the shipping costs. And again, I believe I'm being used as a guinea pig to check whether the US-based 700s and 900s can be reset. I don't mind doing that, but I'm not going to buy a printer just for me to test this on. I'm going to rely on you guys to send me some samples. And this is the maintenance tank resetter. Again, pretty much the same, except this does not have an alignment frame. Here's the box. And again, I have no idea what the cartridges look like. We have, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pins. These are even longer. Look at how long they are. So I assume because of the length of these pins that chip is recessed into the cartridge body. So let me pop this back in. So what I need, like I said, is samples from you guys. Don't bombard me with a ton of them. Just someone who wants to do it, please contact me. You will be part of this whole research project. So we'll make you famous. Imagine being involved in the verification of this system, of whether this works or not. Now, this is what a regular T68 resetter looks like. T058 resetter looks like. This will reset this waste ink cartridge, okay, as well as the regular T58 cartridges. All righty. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do our show and tell. Now, of course, our goal is this. This is our goal, okay? We print this every single time. Otherwise, we have no clue what our printer can do. And how do you know that this is exactly what the printer can do, what the printer can produce? You don't affect this image any way, shape, or form. You open it and you print it. Let me make sure that I got this. Okay. You open it and you print it. You print it letting the driver control color. And that means that in your application that you open this image with, you choose, when you go to File, Print, and you get the second window, let the printer control color. Then you go to your printer driver, and in the case of an Epson, is color management set to none. Okay, so your color mode, not Epson sRGB, not Adobe 90 RGB 1998, not anything, none. Okay, and wait a minute, no, ICM. I'm sorry, we're talking about the opposite. ICM. Let the driver control color in your application, then color mode ICM. Sorry, ICM will then tie the Epson luster paper to its own ICC profile automatically. Now with Canon, if you just use the Print Studio Pro plugin, it will do that for you. It's printing through the driver is what it's doing, unless you go to the Pro mode and then you choose your own ICC profile. You would do that if you were using some other brand paper and you need a specific ICC profile tied to that job. You would then you don't have to tell Photoshop anything. You just open up the plugin. You don't go File, Print. You open up the plugin. It's File, Automate, and then the plugin. And pick the paper type, pick your paper size, and basically your Canon printer, if it's supported, because Print Studio Pro doesn't support every single Canon printer. Okay, only the Pro printers. And that's it. You print and it will match. It will match perfectly. And so if you want your application to control color, then you have to tell it to do so. And then you pick the matching ICC profile manually. And then you go to your driver and then turn that to none. That's what I meant to say. So the driver's not controlling color. Your application is controlling color through the ICC profile for that paper. The other way around is your application's not controlling color, see, and then your driver's controlling color through that paper's ICC profile. If you choose that paper in the drop-down menu, and it has to be a Canon paper for Canon and an Epson paper for Epson. Otherwise, it's another paper. You really require a custom ICC profile, one that was created either by the paper manufacturer or yourself. All right. That's my favorite. Oh, come on over there. Let me just drop these on the floor. There you go. That's my favorite evaluation image. I also have this one. I made a big old one. And again, why this one? Well, because, you know, some people may have trouble translating all of this, all of these bars and color patches and thingamajigs, and what does all this mean? This is a compilation of real images, okay, but they are selected specifically for evaluating a printer, okay. So let me back up a little bit. So we have a bunch of just regular images. This is things that you will see daily. They may be also very similar to what you produce in your photography. We have some monochromes. Again, you're looking for neutrality, perfect neutrality. You don't want these to have a color cast. You have some very dark key photos. You have some very subtle type renditions here of landscapes. Night shots. This is really a very dark. These are kind of medium density. I wish they had like a very high key monochrome, but they don't. But anyway, these are your normal type images. This is just a shot of an adobe church, that could be anywhere in the Southwest United States. You could have shot that yourself, So again, it's just a compilation of normal looking images, and this will give you a really good idea what a bunch of different types of images would look like on your printer on a particular paper. So that's why I recommend using as many sample packs from as many manufacturers that you might be interested in testing. They sell sample packs. So get the sample packs, and you don't have to worry about guessing, because you'll be able to go through all of their different papers that they offer for very little money, by the way. They really give you a good deal. Okay, this is the print that I just made on the XP 15000. This was sent to me by an Australian photographer. So this is somewhere in Australia. And again, the tonal range is ridiculous. I wish you were here with me. Okay, 6-color printer. It's really amazing. Okay. I was looking carefully at this on my computer, especially this region right here, and this thing nailed it. It nailed it. And we're hoping that when we go over to OEM, from OEM to PC inks, it remains the same. I might go ahead and reprint this and then compare it, and we'll bring it out here and show you guys. So yeah, if anybody doubts this printer is capable, yeah, I hope to get rid of that. At first, this was going to be a no-go. Forget it. Forget about it. A no-go. When the Artisan 1450 was it stop, I mean, that's it. And then all of a sudden the XP 15000 comes out, and they flagrantly tell you cannot use third-party inks on this printer. They do right there in the description on the Epson site for this printer. They tell you that. Single-use chips came out, $10 each, except you can buy a cartridge of ink OEM from Epson for $10. That makes no sense whatsoever, doesn't it? So refillable cartridges, that to me, I mean, I think I got robbed. I paid something like $8 each for a set of 6, and now I gotta add $10 chips on top of that, and I could buy OEM for $10. Makes no sense. Maybe $11. Makes no sense at all, right? So what brought us to the point where we started to consider this, from the point where we were not considering it at all. Forget about it. No go. Chipless. That's it. Plus, chipless would have been okay, because we still would have had to use refillable cartridges. Then we realized those cartridges, they're not consistent in the ink delivery. They start failing. Why? You go from a cartridge that's highly engineered internally with an ink bag, valves that control the way that the ink is delivered, so you get every droplet of ink used. When it reaches empty, you know you used all your ink. All your dollars, all your pennies were actually used to print with. Well, these have sponges inside. Really, really terrible. Okay. And then they had the nerve to charge that much for a set of refillable cartridges with sponges. Really bad sponges, too, by the way. Anyway, so again, that was going to be kind of a okay, fine. We can go chipless. We don't have to buy the $10 chips, which was ridiculous. I might as well buy OEM. But gosh, it would be nice if I could refill my original cartridges because I suspect that they have an ink bag in them. Well, now we know that they do have an ink bag with them. And unlike Mike himself didn't think they would be refillable until he tried it. I said, dude, you need to try this. Hell, I don't have access to any of these cartridges yet, so I cannot do it myself, but you should do it. And sure enough, all of a sudden, we realized these cartridges can be refilled. Boom, that's it. Problem solved. Chipless, refillable cartridges, OEM, just like the Pro 10. That was our goal, but we thought impossible. There's no way they're going to be that dumb and allow us to do that, right? No way. No way. Well, they did. Okay, so what do we do now? We have chipless and we have refillable OEM cartridges. What about those waste ink pads? Are they going to bring our printer down to its knees when it reaches that point? The printer will say, sorry, I can't work anymore. Well, guess what? It has a user replaceable waste ink cartridge. Costs $10. How often will we have to do this? Well, remember, these printers don't perform these cleaning cycles like the Canon printers do. I just printed that one after about a week of no printing on it. Okay, I did this little wee print of my painting rendition on Canon paper. It's freaking perfect. I mean, come on. 4x6s. You can load them on the top or you can load them on the internal drawer. Here is the Thomas Lighthouse made into a painting. Let me back up. Down to the southern part of the Chesapeake Bay. Again, this makes a beautiful large print, by the way. So yeah, this is a capable little printer. And now it's perfect. You know why it's perfect? No problems with the waste ink generation. I don't care anymore. Generate all the waste ink you want. Who cares? $10 every year or so. Okay. And I can refill for pennies, maybe under about 80 cents per refill. Okay. And from what we saw, the results are fantastic. Okay. So no worries there at all either. So what do? That's it. We give it an applause. Okay. Let's continue. So this is my baby now. Of course, I will not give up on the Pro 100. You guys have to be aware of that. That's still my other go-to printer. This is on regular luster paper now, of course, because it's luster. You can see how much pop that has. Let me line it up. I don't want to get reflections on this. I want to give you the beauty of the color. Okay, Pro 100 PC inks. I shot this one in Gettysburg. Again, the reflections are horrific. That's one of the reasons not to print on this kind of paper. But again, the pop is amazing. There we go. I think I got it. Almost. Again, just basically almost straight up into the clouds. Really weird because it wasn't even a sunset yet. But for some reason, it was just a little past mid-afternoon, and look at the sky. Again, this is right on the middle of the battlefield. One of the worst areas of the war. And let me see what this is actually done. This is done with pigment ink. I see some gloss differential. Some of these little areas right here, no ink. So therefore, no chroma optimizer was applied. I don't know whether this is a Pro 1 or the Pro 10. Okay. This was before the Pro 1000 got here. But again, full tonal range, you can't beat that. Now, I can't get a good black on matte paper. Yeah, baloney. Yes, you can. Let me see. This will not have any reflections. This is the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. We're on a boat, so we're about to go under the bridge. Let me back it up. Again, if I turn the lights on in here and I take a close look at the tonality, the detail under the bridge structure, yeah, you see a black. You see a perfect black. Okay. And not everywhere. You see a black where there's supposed to be a black. Otherwise, you see nothing but tonality, all kinds of detail on there. So there you go. Yes, you can get a good black on that paper. But, if I was to print this on the Pro 100, yeah, it's not going to be that great. But you know what? Magically, if you make a profile on the Pro 100 for that Canon Pro Matte paper, it produces a pretty good deep black, even though it's just photo black ink, which is a lot less dense than your regular matte black pigment ink would be. Now here's another one of my converted images into a painting, again on on Pro Matte. And again, this does no justice to this image because of the lighting is so inferior in here. But again, beautiful, strong colors. I'm telling you, this was in the fall. The oranges are amazing on here. The detail is just fabulous. And I forget whether I printed this on the Pro 1. I think it's when I was doing work on the Pro 1, extensive work on the Pro 1. So this is Pro 1 material. Pro 1, Pro 10, pretty much the same ink set, okay? We go back to a shiny paper. This is, again, Pro Luster. I had so much Pro Luster that I was using it for everything. Now, here is something that happens a lot when you shoot a sunset. And that is this greenish halo, a little bit green halo around the sun. It's just an artifact that occurs, okay? It's not much you can do about it. But again, you can see this is actually not quite full black because I can see some detail in the valley here, but it's great. It's great. And even though if you were to gamut test this for auto gamut, yeah, a lot of this will be auto gamut, but the printer will compress it. If you use the proper rendering intent for something like this, you can get away with perceptual. I'm sorry, I'm looking at myself. I should be looking at the camera lens. I criticize other people for not doing that, but there I go, doing it myself. Matte paper again. And I did a tone layer on this one. This is a monochrome with a tone layer. This is one of the trees that I used to have in my backyard when I didn't live here. This was some other place. And again, the detail is amazing. And I believe, again, I'm printing on the Pro 1 at this point. Oh gosh, it's almost crunchy. It's so sharp. And again, great tonality, great pop. It's not dull. It's not flat. It doesn't lack contrast. It's just fantastic. I'm very satisfied with it. Now, this is one I found on the internet. And the folks that are there with the reflections, they're not black, okay? They're not black, fully black. They do have a little bit of detail. And that was again reproduced by the printer. Neither are these areas here. They're not full black areas. They do have some density above black, that is. So again, it depends what you want. You can edit this a certain way so that maybe you want that to be fully black and it will be printed fully black. But I didn't want that. So to me, this is again, and matte. I'm getting to love matte a lot more. So to me, no reflections, great tonality, full strength of the colors, full density. When I have to use, when I need a full black, it does it again. But remember, OEM on that Pro 1 and the Pro 10 at the point where I was probably doing a lot of these prints were precision colors at that point. Here's one that I absolutely love. Again, this is not my image. And just the nuances in this image. This young lady is absolutely gorgeous, and her color is just perfect. Again, high key, and the printer, I believe this was the Pro 1000 at this point, just nailed it. I probably have a couple thousand images back there. I just pulled out a few. If you guys want to see a lot of my early work, go to my show and tell playlist. I got like 25, 26 videos there where I go through everything and I tell you what inks were used, what printer, what camera, what everything, okay? And what papers and all of that. So here's that same image again. I think I have it here twice. Why? I don't know. Anyway. Got two versions of that. Maybe it was two different printers. Monochrome. So monochrome should be neutral. Should be monochrome unless you purposely change the tonality. Okay. You can do that in the driver. If you use one of the black and white modes in your driver, for instance, like advanced black and white or black and white mode for Canon, you can adjust the tonal range. You can go from a neutral black to more of a sepia, more of a bluish tone, whatever you wish, just by simply adjusting the slider. Look at that. Full blacks, great contrast, great detail. Again, not my image. This was from a winner of one of the weekly contests on DP Review, the forum for printing. Okay. And again, I forget this one. What was this one on? I don't see any application of this has Chrome Optimizer. So probably the Pro 1000. This one here I did take is the river in Frederick, Maryland. And this was done with my little Nikon D3300 and printed on the, let's see. This could very well be the Pro 100. Yep. I see perfect even color or gloss. I got some areas here that are a little bit almost pure white, so that would have a bit of a gloss differential because I may not have used full application of Chrome Optimizer. That applies a full coat regardless of ink density on your print. With the drone, okay, I fly a lot and I take some nice 22 megapixel images. This is the trees behind Nathan's house. And of course, these are now gone with the new construction of that big old house. They are building behind it. Again, you just fly your drone, you line it up, you put it in photo mode, and you go click on your controller, and it takes a DNG and a JPEG at the same time. It does have some curvature distortion because of the type of lens that they use, but in Lightroom, there is a plugin that allows you to basically correct that in Lightroom. It has a plugin specifically for the Parrot Anafi 4K copter. Got one more here. This is a young couple Chinese couple. This beautiful woman right here used to be about 3 years old when her parents started working for us in our lab. They were both PhDs. Her husband was a MD, but a researcher. And so I took care of Christine. Christine was a little baby, 3 to 4 years old. I used to watch her because sometimes I would have to bring her in. And when I started doing weddings around this area, I would show them to her, the photos. And she says, when I get married, I want you to take my pic. Well, yeah, she got married. She's now an MD. She's a pediatrician in the Baltimore area. And she married a banker, so she's doing well. And they have two beautiful, gorgeous, gorgeous baby girls. All right, now let's look at some odd papers. So this is my Canson Aquarella rendition of that. Hey, let's see if it matches. How about that? Well, this has a lot more pop, of course. It's glossy, but look at the color. It's pretty much identical. This is uncoated, rough texture paper, very thick. You can see how thick it is. But look at that. And what you do is you put this under glass if you want to, or spray it. I have sprayed it a couple times with a spray with a little bit of gloss, because this is just regular artist watercolor paper. It's not coated for inkjet printing at all. So it has a certain sizing that they apply to the paper to accept the watercolors, but it's not for inkjet printing. But I have adapted it for that, and I get amazing results with it. I think the look is perfect. This is a numbered print. It's number 5 of 100 that I plan to make. And so I'll probably never sell this one because I've been handling it with my fingers. And that I would not sell that to anybody. But anyway, that's it. You can do pretty much anything on some of these printers. Let me see what's going on over here. All right, so let's see what else we got here. We're getting close to the finish line. Again, don't forget, you guys that have a 700 or 900 or are going to get one, contact me if you want to take part in this experiment. I would love it. I mean, you guys are going to be my salvation, because there's no way that I'm going to be able to afford to buy one of those printers just for this experiment. I'll have to rely on the ones that already have it. Thank you very much for all the knowledge you share with me this year. And be sure that I will use every single time I use my printer gears and software. Happy New Year's and happy printing. Same to you, Roberto. Thank you, man. All ranges. Yeah, I mean, you could do that. I mean, I have many sample packs with lots of different kinds of papers that you could be experimenting with. I just don't have the time. I have too many printers. There's no way that I can, do that with every printer. I would have to basically choose one or two. So Nikos says, I have read some rumors that some of the Canon papers are made from Hahnemühle. Do you know something about that? I really do not, but I would not be surprised. Okay. You probably missed, I don't think you were viewing us when Drew, the owner of Red River, was here with us as a guest. And he did kind of verify that there are only like 7 worldwide paper mills that make papers for photo printing purposes. And yes, a lot of papers are made for or sold to various companies. They come from the same lot. Okay. In fact, here in the USA, we have a office supply company called Staples, like this, Staples. And they sell everything under the sun that's related to office. They have photo paper. The Staples brand, I have a lot of it. It's made in Germany. Okay. It's good stuff. It's really, really good stuff. Costco, one of our big box companies here in the US, their paper brand, their local or home brand, I forget what they're called. Um, Again, those papers are made by a famous paper mill. They're really, really good. Okay. And sold at really, really good prices, by the way. So again, it's the big name brands and a lesser known brand that's probably is, 30% less. It might come from the same role. Okay. Not really, but you know what I mean. The same line, production line. There you go. See that? That is true. Art says, Merry Christmas, Mr. J. It's been a while. I hope you and yours are doing well. Yes, thank you very much. Same to you. Same to everybody here. I hope you guys are having a wonderful end of year. Again, we're hoping for a much better 2021. Again, we're going to keep on top of all the changes and everything that's available. We're going to continue to print. There's no reason to ever stop. Um, and that's about it. George Gab, Happy New Year, everyone. All right, George. Art says, as long as there's tears of joy. Yeah, absolutely. Nico says, thank you, Charles. Seal is great, but here in Greece is much more expensive than Hannibal. Really? Wow. I thought Hannibal and Moab and Ilford are some of those papers mostly known in Europe. I don't see too much. I used to buy, when I was in the dark room, I used to buy papers from Seagull, like the bird, Seagull Company. And that was a place out in, right on Hollywood Boulevard, right in Hollywood, the heart of Hollywood, the northern part, just below that big hill that has the Hollywood sign. I would go up Los Feliz Boulevard, turn down on Hollywood Boulevard, and on the right would be Freestyle, a company called Freestyle. They're still around. They do a lot of photographic supply sales. But I was a 17-year-old kid, 18, not 18, 16, 15, 16 years old, and I used to take my bike there. And I forgot to tell you guys, I went to the same high school as that judge that presided over the O.J. Simpson trial. Yeah, he graduated from my school. And a couple of other actors, including Leonardo DiCaprio as well. So we were in the heart, near Hollywood anyway. We're very close to Hollywood. So a lot of people from the Hollywood area send their kids there. It was a weird school. It was a public school, but it was sort of like a preparatory school. So you had to major in the school, major on a specific subject. And mine at the time was music. So I did spend my whole life in music. And then my son followed that, just like dad. And my nephew did as well. And now he's a music professor in the University of Texas. All right, I think that is it. I think Cougar, let's see. Let me make sure that, yeah, we got him. Charles Burke, and I wish you and your family a happy new year. Everybody, until next year, keep it safe and healthy. Of course, we will. Cougar, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, Jose from Alberta, Canada. Awesome. All right, I think that's it. What's in the coming few days? We have New Year's Eve, Thursday. New Year's will be Friday. I may do something. We'll see how many of you people are actually around New Year's. And but what I plan to do, as I said earlier, was to do the refilling. I've been using the printer more so that I have enough space left to refill properly. And I'm going to pop my refill basically the refillable cartridges in there while I go to the back room with the actual cartridges and do the whole video. We're going to weigh the cartridges. We're going to determine what their present weight is, and then subtract that from the empty weight and figure out, what amount of ink is left in them. And then we're going to refill them until the sponge becomes a little bit glistening or shining. In other words, getting wet. We'll blot that off, and then we'll weigh them. And that way will tell us the maximum weight that you can load on those cartridges. We'll lock on the clips and then transfer them over to the printer. The printer will be happy as can be, because it will continue to think it's full, and we'll continue to print. We'll put it through its paces. And then another video that I've been dying to do is what to do for the meantime. Okay, let's just say you are modifying your Pro 100 cartridges or CLI 42s, and you mess up. You use a dull drill and the hole is too big and the plug doesn't seal properly, and you have ink all over the inside of your printer because it leaked out on you. You put it in, and then the next morning you get up to print. It says I'm full. You reset it, but it's really empty, and that will kill your print. It will. So what to do to at least for a couple of days until you get a new cartridge and start all over again, what you can do to fix that. Okay, you will not be able to fix the hole, but you can use this kind of tape. Replace the plug with a little square tab of aluminum tape. Okay, this is the only tape that's reliable enough to seal properly that hole that you misdrilled. And that would be, this is an untampered cartridge. This is one that has been already sealed, okay, and drilled. I could swing this all I want. That plug is not going to come out, okay? But if I remove that ball and I do not carefully drill that seat, I might end up with a hole that's too big, and this plug will no longer seal, okay? And that will cause leaks. It will cause your cartridge to leak uncontrollably. So to fix it, say this hole is too big. You dry this, take a little alcohol pad, clean this very nicely, let it dry, and apply like a 3/4 inch square piece of that tape, maybe 3/4 by an inch, and just wrap it tightly. That will seal it for the time being. You fill it up, you put a clip on here, you fill it up, and you seal it with aluminum tape, and you'll be able to print until you get a replacement. This is not a long-term fix, okay? This is not a long-term fix. So we're going to do a video covering exactly what to do, how to apply that tape correctly. You can, of course, fill that hole with silicone or hot glue, but then you got to remove it again to refill it. So you might as well just hit my friend, Rick Johnson, and buy a new set of cartridges or an individual cartridge to fix the one you may have damaged in drilling. Recommendation, of course, is to use a very sharp drill bit, okay? Preferably a new one. Okay, Cesar Paredes says, oh, hello, Jose. I have a 3880, has been on for 4 years, printing once a month. Is that okay to leave it on? Yeah, absolutely. I leave all my printers on constantly. Not a problem. Nico says, I can buy 24-inch roll, 100 foot, 30 meters, 100 mil luster, 260 for 92 euros. Wow. That's not bad. Yeah, that's not bad at all. That's actually quite good. Will Carson, best New Year's wishes. Thank you, Will. Same to you, my friend. Wendy, thank you, Jose. I wish you the very best next year, New Year. All righty. We got to keep in touch. We should do another video conference whenever you get a chance. Let me know. We'll talk about any new developments that at your end and my end. Nico says, Happy New Year to everybody. All right. I think that's going to be it for the evening. We're going to switch over here. We'll put that music back on. And what I would like to do is have you guys just wish each other Happy New Year's and post it here. I will post it here as the music goes on. And as there are no more, I will go ahead and lower the volume, and we'll log off for the evening. And again, we'll see you all on 2021 next Sunday. I hope to have Precision Colors with me because we got to discuss how to buy a used printer properly. So again, thank you so much. We'll see you next year. Bye bye, everybody.